All right. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. This is my new Twitch channel. I started this about 2 weeks ago now. This is my third Monday. This is Mental Health Mondays. If you find this video on YouTube, which is where I'm sure most of you that watch it will probably see it, I seem to be getting more views on YouTube than on Twitch right now. But if you see this video on YouTube, every Monday over on my Twitch channel, Cool Beans Hot Stuff, I stream a mental health related topic. So that's what I do on Mondays. Every day is a different topic. Today is going to be a mental health topic that I'm really fucking stoked for. I'm actually been really excited to talk about this particular subject because it's a favorite of mine. This technique, I guess you'd call, well, four techniques. They're the four habits of Navy SEALs is what we're going to be going over today. And that's just kind of what I named the stream. We'll get into what I mean by that here in a second. But these four techniques really did revolutionize my life. I know that sounds like a kind of a dramatic way to say it, but it really did. These four techniques were such a massive deal to me in terms of improving the quality of my life that I'm very excited to talk about them and share them all with you. So I hope that this video makes its rounds around YouTube and on Twitch too. I did notice I do get a lot of people who watch my VODs on Twitch, which is awesome. So whatever platform you're finding my videos on, thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, if it helps you out in any kind of way. But yeah, thank you for watching all the same. To all those who are watching live, I don't have my stream up right now, so I don't know who's watching live. I know my cutie pie is watching live. Hi, cutie pie. She's upstairs crocheting a tube top right now. She just got into that. So, but yeah, anyways, while she's doing that, we're going to talk about the four habits of Navy SEALs. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, the four habits of Navy SEALs, it's four habits that were taught to the Navy SEALs by a psychologist. This psychologist you see on the screen here, Dr. Eric Potterat. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that last name. We're going to say Potterat because it sounds more fancy. Mr. Fancy Pants Eric Potterat here taught the Navy SEALs the Navy SEAL commanders about four techniques that can be used to increase the mental health or the mental toughness of all Navy SEAL trainees during BUDS, which is the Navy SEALs boot camp training school. And what is here? Let me just pull up over here what BUDS stands for because I always forget. What does BUDS stand for, Navy SEAL? Here we go. Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. Okay, so that's what BUDS stands for. That's the school that they go to after boot camp to learn how to become a Navy SEAL. It's obviously a very challenging school to go to. It's one of the toughest in the country. And this guy right here, Mr. Eric Potterat, he devised a way for Navy SEALs to improve their mental toughness so they could make it through the program at a higher success rate for the program is what his purpose was. And we're going to go over what those four techniques are so you can employ them in your daily life. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of who Eric Potterat is and what he does and why you should listen to him. A couple different books or resources you could go to get a more in-depth understanding of these techniques, although I'm going to give you a pretty in-depth understanding of them today. We got about a 2-hour stream and only four techniques to talk about. So I'm going to go pretty in-depth on these. You know, sometimes on the stream, I'll have a list of about 8 or 10 things to dive into. And we don't usually get super in-depth when I have that many topics on a stream. But today we'll be able to get pretty in-depth on the mechanics of all four of these techniques, how to utilize them, the process for utilizing them, when to utilize them, how to practice them, how they work specifically in your brain, all of that. You know, we're going to get into a lot of it. But still, there's some good books that I wanted to point you towards that could give you an even better understanding of this particular topic. So we're going to go through those, and then I'm going to give you the story from the book that I heard, the story of how Mr. Eric Potterat brought these four techniques to the Navy SEALs and the effect that it had on them. And then we're going to go over the four habits themselves, one by one, teach you how to use them and go over all that information I just talked about. And then last but not least, we're going to go over why you should want to know this, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of personal background on how these 4 techniques changed my life, how each one helped me get through particular, I wouldn't say issues, but just all around improve the quality of my life and made it better. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to dive into. So let's go ahead and get started so we have time to get through all of it. We're going to read here about Mr. Eric Potterotte. So, Eric Potterotte, PhD, is a high-performance sport clinical psychologist and a retired U.S. Navy commander who, during his last 10 years in the Navy, served as the psychologist for the U.S. Navy SEALs. As their head psychologist, he was responsible for the mental assessment, selection, development, maintenance, and enhancement programs for the nation's best warriors and highest performers. He was also responsible for the mental toughness and performance psychology training, clinical care, operational readiness, resilience training, and neurocognitive evaluation programs for all active duty personnel across the Navy special operations worldwide. So that's what he did in the Navy. Currently, and for the last 4 years, he has been the director of sports psychology programs for the Los Angeles Dodgers, where he oversees the organization's sports psychology programs, mental assessment and selection programs, neurocognitive efficiency programs, etc. His experience in sports is wide-ranging. In fact, he's got 3 massive paragraphs of his experience with sports. For 5 years, he served as the high-performance psychologist for Red Bull High Performance, where he is responsible for sport performance psychology programs for Red Bull athletes. In that capacity, he manages the development and implementation of the mental performance optimization program for Red Bull athletes, which they go through a whole slew of different things he does there. He has experience conducting psychological assessments and interviews at the NFL Combine, providing comprehensive sports psychology consultation for numerous NBA, NFL, and MLB franchises, extreme athletes, and over 30 different sport disciplines. For the last 20 years, Eric has also focused his research and practice on teachable and actionable mental performance techniques, stress resilience, character development, selection, neuropsychology, decision-making under stress, mental toughness training, and elite human performance in extreme environments. He is considered one of the leading experts in individual and organizational resilience and performance enhancement in high-risk, high-performance occupations. Years of working with and researching these elite performers athletes has allowed him to better understand the science of mental toughness and how many of the same techniques that make the elite performers amazingly successful are 100% teachable. So, for Eric's last 15 of his 20 years in the Navy, he focused on his research and practice on stress resilience, personal selection and development. Getting a little thing in my throat. I'm just getting over having like a 2-ear infection, throat ear infection. It was a big bummer. I had it for like the last 2 weeks and finally just got over it these last 2 or 3 days. So I can finally drink coffee and eat candy again. I'm so excited. Today was a good day. I went to the gym for the first time today too in 2 weeks. I had to employ some of Mr. Eric Potterotte's mental toughness techniques there, so it kicked my ass. Okay, he is also credited for developing and implementing the mental toughness training program for the U.S. Navy SEALs and embedding it into their training pipeline. We'll go over quite a bit how he did that. He has a 30-year peer-reviewed professional journal and/or chapter publications, has been featured on national media, and has served as a consultant for many organizations, including numerous professionals and collegiate sports teams, individual professional athletes, Red Bull High Performance, NASA, many law enforcement and government agencies, firefighting organizations, and Fortune 500 companies. Let's see. He has also worked with... There was a whole thing in here. Oh, maybe that was on the other page. Yeah, that was on another page. But yeah, so you get the gist. This dude has dedicated his life to understanding, studying, and learning how to teach mental toughness. And he's done a really good job of that. He's worked with tons of sports teams, as you just seen, tons of sport programs, the Navy SEALs, obviously. He's worked with firefighters, law enforcement, first responders, all different kinds of people who are in stressful situations in life, right? Who are working very stressful jobs or jobs that require high physical performance. There's a burp. I've gotten really good at muting my burps out. So that's Mr. Eric Potterotte. Here is Mr. Eric Potterotte's book. I have not read this book. I definitely want to order myself one. It's called Learned Excellence, Mental Discipline for Leading and Winning from the World's Top Performers. So if you are the kind of person that wants to go out and be the next big NFL hit, this is probably a good book for you to look into, right? Give me 1 second. Still taking stuff for the throat just to make sure it goes away 100% because I'm going to be hanging out with my parents this weekend for Easter. So I want to make sure I feel good for that. But yeah, he's worked with the Dodgers, military, sports, first responders, and businesses all over the world. Yeah, we kind of went over his little thing already. But there's his book in case you're interested in learning more from the horse's mouth. That's not where I read about the four techniques that I'm specifically talking about. This book is probably filled to the brim with way more than four techniques. I don't think this book is written about just these four basic techniques. I'm just going over the four basic techniques that he invented and taught to the Navy SEALs. That they employed that I am aware of. There might be other techniques that he taught to the Navy SEALs. There might be other, I'm sure this book, it looks like a decent sized book. There's probably way more than four techniques in it. So more resources in this book if you're interested in this kind of thing. Stick around to the end of the stream and I'll tell you why you probably should be, even if you aren't looking to be the next big NFL quarterback or a Navy SEAL. Where I learned now about these techniques is from this book right here, NLP, The Essential Guide. Let's see, NLP, The Essential Guide. What NLP stands for is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So that's the full title for the book is NLP, The Essential Guide to Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And let's see, doesn't give you, no, where does it give you the people who wrote it? Oh, there it is, Tom Dotz. There isn't a second author to the book, but I'm not seeing it anywhere that's right in front of me, so I'm not going to dive too deep into whoever the other guy was or go search for it. But Tom Dotz was the man who wrote this book. We're not going to dive too deep into what neuro-linguistic programming is. I'll just give you the quick and short of it. When I was going on my mental health journey, went through some therapy and some different kinds of therapy. We already had a stream about cognitive behavioral therapy. I think next month I had a stream set for EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and rehabilitation programming. That's that little bar up here where my finger's at. That goes across my bookshelf. That's a EMDR bar. So I did a little bit of that. And then, of course, went out and supplemented my knowledge on mental health and psychology with a lot of different books. Read some psychology books and then read some self-help books. In that was a couple books on neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro-linguistic programming is it's a discipline. It's a psychology-based discipline. It essentially, here, we'll just give you a quick whatever AI says about it, because it is a little bit difficult to explain. So let me just give you guys neuro-linguistic programming. There we go. What is neuro-linguistic programming? Oh, this is Microsoft Bing. I don't know why, but I just prefer having Google's AI. Microsoft, your AI needs to do better. I like it when it just pops up right there for you. Like right here, right at the top. Nice. Okay. NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, is a field of study and a set of techniques that focuses on the relationship between neurological processes, language, and behavior patterns. It aims to help individuals understand their thinking processes and communication patterns to achieve desired outcomes in personal development and communication. NLP techniques can be used to improve communication skills, build confidence, and change unhelpful thought patterns. You might recognize some of that language from our cognitive behavioral therapy video. If you haven't checked that out, it's on YouTube right now. What is cognitive behavioral therapy on the Cool Beans Hot Stuff channel. But that changing unhelpful thought patterns is a big part of cognitive behavioral therapy and leading to positive behavioral changes. Again, another big part of cognitive behavioral therapy. So neuro-linguistic programming, there is a lot of, there's people who see criticisms and considerations. Some critics argue that NLP lacks scientific evidence and relies heavily on anecdotal evidence, which for the most part it does. There is aspects of NLP that do have scientific backing, that have scientific studies that were done to prove, yes, these things do work. Some of these things do work, but not all of the methods or the techniques that are employed in neurolinguistic programming have scientific evidence for why they should work or that they even do work. So it's important to note not everything you're going to learn in the field of study of neurolinguistic programming is 100% on the up and up, but a lot of it is. Some of it is for certain. It's important to seek out qualified and experienced NLP practitioners. NLP techniques should not be used to manipulate or control others. So there is an aspect to NLP. When I got this book right here, which I do enjoy, and I actually need to give it a good, I believe I gave it 2 run-throughs, which is why I remember the Navy SEAL story so vividly. I'll communicate that story to you guys here in a moment. What exactly it was that those 4 techniques that Eric Potterott taught the Navy SEALs, right? We're already about 15 minutes in the stream and you still haven't heard that. So I'm burying the lead a little bit here. But I remember that story because I gave this book probably a good 2 run-throughs, but I've been wanting to give it a 3rd run-through because there was a lot of useful information. And there was some techniques that I used from this book that, again, anecdotally, worked very well for me. Anchoring, I think it said that right here, that I've seen the word anchoring. Here it is, anchoring. Associating a specific trigger, like a word, a phrase, or a gesture, with a particular emotion or state, allowing individuals to access that mental state on demand. That actually has worked really well for me. I have an anchor that I use to get into my creativity zone, I guess, to get into my meditation zone. And if you are a creative, if you are a musician, athletes have this thing too, where they get into like a mental zone. Okay, we got to switch to my rant screen. Whenever I'm going to start ranting about a topic or share a personal story, as I always switch over to my rant screen. So we're on the rant screen now. It can't be helped. We're going there. So, there's a state of mind that a lot of creatives get into called the flow. There's actually a book, I think, called The Flow or Flow, something like that. I haven't read it. A friend of mine read it and recommended it to me. It's on my list of things to look into and read. But it's about that state of mind where things just click, right? And I can tell you from 8-9 years of working in recording studios that there is definitely a such thing as a flow. Some people get into it easier than others. Some people call it the zone. It's just like a state of mind where you are focused so heavily on the creative task at hand, whether that be writing or playing guitar, drawing your picture, that you enter into kind of a meditative state where your mind just kind of blocks everything else out. And it's just this one creative task in front of you that you're focused on. And when you hit that creative flow, man, you can spend hours working on whatever it is you're working on. And it's like things just click. It's like all of these fresh ideas are just coming to you like boom, 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 boom. And it's a great place to be in. And so I do have a physical trigger that I've built over the last 2 or 3 years. I do it before I stream, and I do it before I sit down to write my stories. I have a little physical anchor. I literally just squeeze this middle finger knuckle right here and close my eyes, meditate, imagine a particular place and time where I was legitimately happy, and then just hold on to that trigger there. And it, to me, in my anecdotal experience, it really does help me just boom, get into the flow much, much quicker. So I can waste less time, sitting there slaving away in front of a computer like, oh, I really don't want to do this. And instead just be excited about what I'm doing and be like, yeah. And I get all these ideas flowing in and out. And again, like I said, once you hit that state, it's like you can be there for 2 or 3 hours writing, playing guitar, whatever it is you're doing, and you don't even notice it. It goes by so fast. You'll just look at the clock and be like, oh shit, I've been writing for 3 hours, and then I'll look down at what I'm writing. I'm like, oh wow, I just wrote 3,000 words. That's crazy. So, okay, rant over. That is a technique that I use that came from neurolinguistic programming, this book specifically. And so it is an interesting book. I used it for self-help purposes. There is a second half of this book that I remember reading, but I only read it once through. That is about using neurolinguistic programming and specifically language to quote unquote manipulate other people. Okay. If you look up NLP, you'll get a lot of information about using it to, well, manipulate people, basically, being able to use language and visual cues to change how people feel about you or feel about a particular situation, to get them to like you quicker, to get them to, I don't know, I mean, a whole slew of different things, right? So as far as all that stuff goes, I don't really know how well any of that works. I would imagine that's the part of it that there isn't a whole lot of social or a lot of scientific evidence for. I never really used a whole lot of it. Again, I went through this when I was going through like a mental health journey. So for me, it was like, I just want to know how to make myself better. You know, the rest of you are on your own. Okay. I'm not going to manipulate you to have a good day today. I want to learn how I can help myself have more better days. Right. So, and for that purpose, this book was really, really good. And I did enjoy it. That's where I learned about these 4 techniques. So, let me give you the story from the book, or at least the paraphrasing of the story, okay? So you understand what we're kind of talking about. So when the Navy SEALs first got started, they were a pretty small program. Like a lot of the military programs, especially like the Special Forces programs, they kind of started as a small group of elite soldiers during a specific war. And once they utilized these soldiers, a lot of the techniques they used, they started realizing, hey, we should probably create a division of these guys, of men specifically for this purpose, whatever that purpose was. And the Navy SEALs, they had the frogmen, who I forget what war it is. I think it was Vietnam. They employed the frogmen, who were like an extra trained batch of soldiers who were extra special badasses. And they decided we should probably continue this in the Navy. You know, this isn't the Army or the Marines, obviously, Navy SEALs, hence the Navy. We should probably create a school to create more of these frogmen. And then there came the Navy SEALs. That's how the Navy SEALs was more or less started, right? That's not the exact story. I can't give you the exact names, but that's more or less how it was started. So when they first started Navy SEAL school, they took the original frogmen and had them go through this BUDS training. I don't even know if it was called BUDS at the time. Might have been. But to go through this school, okay? And when the school first started, they only had about a 5% passing rate. Only 5% of the personnel that went through the school ended up passing the school and succeeding and going on to becoming Navy SEALs, which didn't make the program viable. From a money standpoint, you know, this is a basic cost effective, you know, cost analysis. You know, does it behoove us to be spending this amount of time and money and energy and personnel to only have 5% of the people who enter the program pass? And no, it doesn't. And so instead of cutting the program entirely, which I believe was an option that was on the table that the Navy SEALs, their higher ups, were looking into, or instead of cutting some of the more difficult aspects of the program down, because that's ultimately why people were failing, because it was a difficult program. It was so difficult that the top badasses in all of the Navy couldn't pass the training. The training was just too difficult. It was too much. It was kicking their asses. And that's why people weren't passing. It was physically, mentally, emotionally too stressful and was breaking people. And they didn't want to decrease the severity of their training. They didn't want to make it easier in any way, shape, or form. They wanted it to remain incredibly difficult because they wanted the best of the best. And they knew that there was men out there who could pass this level of difficult training. They knew that it was possible because they had done it themselves. So they knew it was possible. They didn't want to, what's the word? They didn't want to make any concessions when it came to how difficult the training was. They wanted the best of the best. They wanted the most mentally tough training that they could muster up. They just wanted to learn, how can we help our students perform better? And in comes in Dr. Eric Potterotte. Dr. Eric Potterotte gave them 4 techniques that they needed to employ during Navy SEAL schools that they needed to teach their cadets in order to see a greater pass rate. And so he taught the original Navy SEAL teachers how to employ these techniques, and then pass these techniques on along to the future candidates. And once it was embedded into the curriculum, they had a much higher pass rate. I think nowadays Navy SEALs sit at 25 to 30% pass rate. You'd have to look it up, but I think that's where they're at nowadays. But it was a very sudden jump. They were one class, it was a 5% pass rate. And then once they started employing these techniques, it bumped up to like 20%, just under 20% pass rate, and made the program viable. And Navy SEALs are still here today. And Eric Potterrott is a big reason why. Those 4 techniques that he told them to employ in training, they worked. They worked so well that it quadrupled the pass rate of the students going through Navy SEAL training. So, okay, that's more or less the story from the book, Mr. Eric Potterrott's story about how he came to help the Navy SEALs and where these 4 techniques come from. In this book, NLP, The Essential Guide, it goes over that story, and then, of course, it gives you the 4 techniques. And so that's what we're going to go over now. The 4 techniques, I'll give you a rough rundown of each, or just let you know what they are, and then we're going to dive into each technique individually, right? So the first technique is what's called box breathing or breath control. We'll go into how to do it. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of different. Box technique is just one name for the technique, and there's a lot of different variations of it. So you can choose any variation you want. We're definitely going to go over. I got about 2 or 3 different definition or different processes for box breathing pulled up. And you try out which ones you like best and stick with the one you like, okay? But box breathing, or really breath control, is what we're getting at here. That's the general idea. That's the first technique. Okay, the second technique is positive visualization, or visualization specifically. And we'll go over what kind of visualization, because whenever people hear the word visualization, they tend to think like a vision board, right? That's kind of like the joke from the 80s where somebody had a big poster board and then they would put up on the board, like, you know, the sailboat that they wanted to buy next year. And for somehow cutting a picture of a sailboat out of a magazine and putting it up on your visualization board was going to like train your brain. It was going to like manifest itself into the world, right? You know, I have read books about manifestation. We can dive into that, and NLP too. Both of those would make a very interesting separate video. We're not going to dive into them too deeply on this particular stream, but they would be really good second streams. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then drop a comment on my YouTube channel or comment in the chat. That would be something you would enjoy seeing. We can do that for sure, because both those topics I do have read more than a few books in each topic, NLP and manifestation, and would be happy to go over a lot of that stuff with you, because there is something there is something worthwhile in that. But spoiler alert, the poster board shit, that don't work. Okay, that shit don't work. You're not gonna glue a picture of your favorite fucking sailboat that you want to buy next year and on a poster, and you're gonna have a sailboat in a year. That's not how it works. Okay, when I say visualization, the kind of visualization employed by the Navy SEALs, it is a very different type of visualization that's more akin to strategizing and planning ahead, is more what it's actually like. Okay, but for purposes, how it's expressed in NLP in this essential guide, they call it visualization. So we're just going to stick with visualization. I have popped up a couple web pages about this type of visualization, and we will certainly go over those. The third is having a positive inner dialogue. That's the third technique, is changing your inner dialogue to being a very positive inner dialogue. That seems like, you might not be. We'll dive into that a little bit more, because there is some explanation that goes with that. Like all 4 of these, you definitely want to hear what exactly the technique is, how to employ it, and why you should employ it, and what effect that actually has when you are employing it correctly. But yeah, having a positive inner dialogue, you would be surprised we all have an inner monologue. I mean, I know there's like studies out there that say like 30% of the population doesn't have an inner monologue. And it's like, I don't know if that's true or not. I've actually never seen those studies, so I can't confirm if that's true or not. But most of us have an inner monologue, a voice in our heads that speaks to us most of the time, especially if you haven't undergone any kind of therapy, because this is something, it doesn't matter what kind of therapy you go into for most of the time. If you're working with a therapist, most therapists are going to introduce you to the concept of your inner voice or your inner monologue. You do, in fact, have a voice in your head that talks to you. And a lot of people don't even realize that it's there. They're just thinking, and they think this is just a thought versus conceptualizing it as a voice in their head that they can control. They think it's just a passing thought. Well, a lot of these passing thoughts can be very, very negative, as a matter of fact. And having a continuous flux of negative thoughts or a negative internal voice, there is studies that have shown and proven that it has very detrimental effects on your performance through daily life. Okay, so positive inner voice is a very important one. And then the fourth one is celebrating your victories. Sounds like a really easy, simple thing to do, right? But we're going to get into how to appropriately celebrate your victories and why it's so important to celebrate your victories. But those are the 4 habits that Eric Potterotte taught Navy SEALs to employ during their training to increase the success rate of cadets through the BUDS program. Control your breathing, breath control, or box breathing is what they specifically Eric Potterotte used, which we'll go over. Box breathing, visualization, strategic visualization, a positive inner dialogue, and celebrating their victories. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it's more simple than you would actually think. Yeah, it is pretty simple, as a matter of fact. The tough part is making these things a habit. That's what they teach in Navy SEALs. They don't just teach, I don't even think I've read a lot of books by Navy SEALs on Navy SEAL training. The last few slides I have are a couple good books about that. But I'm not even sure if they actually spell it out to Navy SEALs. If a Navy SEAL sees this on YouTube, please, in the comments, let me know. But I don't even actually think that they present this to Navy SEALs in Navy SEAL training. Like they tell them, hey, now we're going to teach you 4 techniques. I don't think they even tell them that. They just teach them to do these 4 things as they're going through their training. And then they just drill it into their heads all day long, all day, every day. From the very get-go, the minute they get there, they're just, boom, drilling this shit into their heads. And it becomes something that through the process of being stressed out while learning these techniques, this is a whole, I don't want to get into too big a rant. I'm resisting touching the rant screen. I don't want to get into too big of a rant on this particular subject, but yes, there is a lot of studies to show that when you are stressed out, okay, when you are in a sort of crunch time kind of situation in life, and you are learning, when you're in a crunch time situation, your body is creating, oh man, what's the name of the chemical? It connects to your nicotinoid receptors. I'm blanking on the particular chemical that your brain creates, but your brain creates a specific chemical that improves neurological function. It effectively makes it easier for you to learn, primes your neurons to fire quicker, so learning becomes easier, and what you learn holds much better. And so this increase of this chemical happens when you get stressed out. It happens in stressful situations. It happens in physically difficult situations, like say when you're running long distance, or you're lifting weights, something where you're kind of pushing the endorphins to come out. And it happens during when you're scared too. In instances of very high emotional moments, high emotion moments, high stress moments, high adrenaline moments. Adrenaline is kind of a key thing that makes this particular chemical in your brain, increase at a large rate. And this particular chemical speeds up the learning process, essentially. So I can get into that on another video. We can actually discuss the actual science behind that, what that chemical is, because that's a whole nother set of techniques that I've actually used in my life as well. When I was going through learning finance, learning about investment, learning how to write, I would, before I sat down to take an hour to 2 hours to do writing classes online or investing classes, either online or read from a book, whatever it was, I would either go take a ice cold shower or an ice bath, which increases your adrenaline and increases the secretion of this particular chemical. Or I had a VR headset and would do scary VR videos. So like walking through a haunted house in full surround VR. Oh, that shit was terrifying. Yeah, I love scary stuff, but it changes when you're in full VR and you like turn your head, go like this, and boom, there's this scary ass grudge girl right there. Going through that would scare the shit out of me, increase my heart rate, increase the creation of adrenaline, which would increase the secretion of this chemical that would make learning easier. And then I would sit down and I would learn then. That sounds like a crazy way to go about learning, but if you think about it, this actually does happen when you're in high school. Actually, when you're a kid, especially when you're a teenager. When you're a teenager and hormones are going off, it doesn't take a lot to increase your adrenaline and put you in a high emotional state. Not trying to shit on any teenagers out there. That's just the way it is. You can look into the science behind it. Being a teen is a very emotionally taxing part of everyone's life. When you're a teenager, man, that girl that you liked, that crush that you like, she rejects you. It feels like the end of the world. It can put you into heavy amounts of depression just going through something like that. And then, one day you hit 30 and some girl you like rejects you and you're like, whatever, like, I'll just go find somebody else. No big deal. But when you're a kid, it's not so easy. When you're a kid, shit's hard. Shit's difficult, man. And so you are in a constant state of emotional stress, more or less. Not a constant, but a near constant state of emotional stress when you are in high school. And you can that kind of helps you in a way learn more effectively. Interesting concept. We can go over that on a whole nother stream. Would be really fun to dive into that. I told you all of that, though. Went on that little, we're going to call that a mini rant. Went on that little mini rant to illustrate that Navy SEALs are going through an extremely, if you think high school's bad, BUD/S training has got to be an overwhelming level of emotional stress. I can't even comprehend it. I don't think I've been through anything even remotely close in my life, right? It's this very own specific type and level of mental and emotional and physical stress that BUD/S trainees are going through. And so it helps them learn quicker. So they're learning these 4 techniques. They're learning how to do it like riding a bike, man. It becomes as easy as breathing for them. That's the difficult part of these 4 techniques. It isn't the techniques themselves that are particularly difficult. It is learning how to employ it on a regular daily basis without having to think about it. Building those habits up to be so strong that it just becomes second nature. That is the difficult part, right? And we can dive a little bit in how to do that, how I have attempted to do that, and if it's worked for me. But before we do that, let's go over all 4 techniques. Let me introduce you to all of them and show you what they are. So technique number 1, box breathing. How box breathing can help you de-stress. Another burp. Need a drink. Okay, let's go into it. If you've ever felt anxious or overwhelmed, some well-intentioned person has probably given you the advice, just breathe. When you're in the midst of a stressful moment, though, that can be much easier said than done. Integrative medicine specialist Melissa Young, MD, explains how to do the box breathing technique, a simple but powerful method of focusing on your breath that can help you get and stay calm. So, what is box breathing? Box breathing is a form of yogic deep breathing employed by the U.S. Navy SEALs. See, so I wasn't fucking lying to you. And by stressed out people everywhere. It's also known as Samavrita Pranayama. It's news to me. I didn't know that. Born of the yogic practice of pranayama, or focusing on the breath. Its common name, box breathing, refers to the fact that a box has 4 sides. Okay, a concept represented here by breathing while you slowly count to 4 for a total of 4 times. 4 counts of breathing in, 4 counts of holding your breath, 4 counts of exhaling, 4 more counts of holding after you exhale. This technique goes by other names too. See, I wasn't fucking with you. 4x4 breathing, 4-4-4-4 breathing, equal breathing, 4 square breathing, or square breathing. Okay, so here is my visual example of the technique. Okay, you go and repeat. It's hard for me to count aloud while I'm breathing, so you missed out on that part. But you count to four, generally like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. During the inhale, hold for 4 Mississippi, exhale for 4 Mississippi, hold for 4 Mississippi, then inhale again, continue the process. So easy, super duper easy, right? The benefits of box breathing. I love breath work because it's easy, it can be done anywhere, and it has a potent effect on your physiology, Dr. Young says. It's really powerful. Well, I was kind of hoping, okay, here we go, point by point. Great. Lower stress. The biggest benefit of box breathing is relaxation, especially in times of stress. Studies show that regulating your breath can lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol and maybe even help lower blood pressure. This is true. This is something that doctors recommend to people with high blood pressure. I know this because I have high blood pressure, naturally elevated blood pressure. Okay. Whenever I go in and a doctor tests it, they say, well, try to eat a little bit of this. You get a lot of exercise. Do you do cardio? You do cardio. Okay, good. Okay, well, you can try maybe taking some garlic, that will help you too. And, try some meditation. Meditation, absolutely, a lot of doctors recommend that it can help to lower blood pressure. Doesn't always help, but it can help. So I also want to take, before we get into what else it does, there's a reason. Well, here, we'll go into what else it does, and I'll go into the scientific reason, at least as far as I understand it, as to why it actually does all these things, okay? So, box breathing also activates the parasympathetic nervous system. What is that and what does it do? Well, let's find out. In times of stress, your sympathetic nervous system is on high alert. Box breathing can help you move out of that state by tapping into the bodily system responsible for rest and digestion, the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, otherwise known as fight or flight. So your fight or flight response is your sympathetic nervous system. When we're anxious, we breathe shallowly and quickly, which actually creates more anxiety within your body, and there's a scientific reason for that. We can use breath work to move out of the fight or flight response and into that parasympathetic nervous system. Calms the mind. That's the third thing it does. You don't have to be stressed to benefit from this breath exercise. Practicing box breathing is an opportunity to bring mindfulness to your breath, which is a valuable practice even in tranquil times. It allows you to slow your breath, and it also has an aspect of meditation. Oh, yeah. So this is, if you're new to meditation, I did meditation every day, 20 minutes a day for about 3 years. Have been recently really wanting to get back into it. Because, yeah, man, when you are meditating, there is, from a creative standpoint, I just feel like I'm more creative. Creative ideas come to me much quicker when I'm meditating every day. And yeah, just lower stress. I almost feel like it makes you more productive and think better, right? I mean, it just makes your brain works better is what it almost feels like. Okay. You even remember things quicker, right? So yeah, it's definitely, but if you're new to meditation, you never tried meditation, this is a great way to train yourself into the art of meditation. There's a whole lot of different types of meditation you can do. And I used to employ different types of meditation. I used to do meditation 7 days a week, and every day was a different type of meditation. Um, so yeah, meditation, a lot of different ways to do it. Sorry, I got a text. This is a great way to introduce yourself into meditation. Just close your eyes, sit down, and focus on counting out your breaths for 10 minutes. And don't let any other thought into your brain. That's a pretty important aspect of meditation, is if you you realize you're thinking about something else when you should just be counting, just focusing on the count and focusing on your breath. If you start thinking about anything else, just kick that thought out, just stop thinking about it and go back to just focusing on your breath. It's that simple. Very simple introduction to learning how to meditate. I got to take a Tums. My stomach is killing me. Okay, so As you're breathing, you're also silently counting, which is a kind of mantra meditation that again calms the nervous system and brings you into the present moment. So that's how it gets you into that meditative state. So how to do box breathing, we already discussed. Breathe out slowly, releasing all the air from your lungs. Step 1. Step 2, breathe in through your nose as you slowly count to 4 in your head. Be conscious of how the air fills your lungs and stomach. 3, hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale for another count of 4. I like to exhale through my mouth. Exhaling isn't as important as inhaling, but you do want to get into the practice of inhaling through your nose. Hold your breath after you've exhaled for another 4 counts. Repeat for 3 to 4 rounds. Super simple. So, keep practicing. You might have a hard time. Yeah, that is true. At the first time I tried it, even while I did it for you guys, I had a hard time. The inhale, I couldn't inhale continuously for 4 seconds. You got to get into the habit, especially if you were a smoker or are a smoker. I smoked heavily for about 13 years. I was a smoker before I quit. So my lung capacity is greatly diminished. Here's a good visualization to help with it. This is something you can visualize, close your eyes and visualize while you're box breathing. It's very simple. This is on Bing Video. Just visualize this as you're breathing. So this is just a very easy way to visualize the box. Now you can kind of see why they call it box breathing, right? Because the whole box we're seeing right here, this is a pretty fast count too. I usually do the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. See, I'm going a lot slower than they're going, but it really doesn't matter. You don't have to go that slow or fast. The point is to slow your breathing down and get your mind focused on the counting, kind of clear your minds, right? That's the whole point of box breathing. So how does this affect you in a positive way? So in general, the science, so when you are experiencing times of stress, particularly fear, when you're in a fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system, you are getting a lot of activity happening in the limbic system of your brain. The limbic system is what handles emotions, okay? Specifically, there's different parts of the limbic system. You are specifically having things happen in the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of your brain that processes negative emotions like fear, sadness, anger. So when you have a situation where you are scared, sad, angry, stressed, okay, your amygdala is going off. It's going crazy. Breathing in, doing this breath control, what it does is it increases the amount of oxygen that you're getting from any one single breath and how much of that oxygen your body is absorbing from each breath you take. That increase in oxygen increases the oxygen that's being sent to your amygdala. Increasing the amount of oxygen that goes to your amygdala essentially slows down that process, that part of your brain is what it essentially does. It allows your prefrontal cortex. It allows your prefrontal cortex to stop this cycle of bad emotions that's happening in your amygdala and gain a sense of perspective, right? So, because what happens when you're in a fight or flight response, your cortisol and your adrenaline, pew, shoot through the roof. They make that sound, pew. And then your prefrontal cortex shuts down. That's a part of your brain that acts logically. We kind of talked about this when we were talking about cognitive biases. I think that was last Monday, Mental Health Monday. We talked about cognitive biases. Your prefrontal cortex handles the part of your brain that makes assumptions based off makes logical assumptions based off of impartial information. It handles mathematical calculations and decision making. That part of your brain is temporarily shut off, and your limbic system, again, specifically your amygdala, is what's running your body temporarily, sometimes only for milliseconds, only for a few seconds, maybe at a time. And yeah, it's either the amygdala is either telling you to run, to freeze. A lot of people nowadays call it the fight, flight, or freeze, or to start swinging, right? Swinging is fight, Get angry is fight. Um, Run is flight, back out of the situation, or freeze and don't do anything. Those are kind of the responses you're going to get from your sympathetic nervous system. And you really can't do anything to stop it for the most part because your prefrontal cortex is shut down for the most part. It's not firing off. The neurons in it aren't firing off the way that they should be. Instead, you got a shit ton of neurons in your limbic system that are just firing off like crazy, right? It's Wild West in that bitch. And taking in that fresh oxygen slows down that part of your brain. So this part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, can come back in and say, okay, let's think about things logically instead of emotionally, right? So that's what's happening there. It's giving you space to think about the situation from a logical perspective and slow down that rainfall, that massive waterfall of emotions that's just hammering you on the head, right? So that's the mechanism by which it's working. And it is very useful to employ under stressful situations for the reasons it described. It decreases stress, it calms your minds, and it takes you from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system, where you can think logically about the situation. Okay. When you're in a stressful situation, like, say, for example, since we're talking about Navy SEALs, you're in a gunfight, it's important to be able to control your breath and maintain that logic, right? Because one illogical move is a difference between life or death, right? So it definitely warrants your ability to not freak out, because you got to be terrified. Somebody's shooting at you, trying to kill you. You're terrified, angry, the whole 9 yards, man. And you can't let those emotions take over your thought process. It is imperative that you think about the situation logically, follow orders, stay aware of your surroundings, intake as much information as you can to make the best decisions possible. You may not be a Navy SEAL in the middle of a gunfight, but it doesn't matter. You have situations in your life where you're going to get that same sort of sensation. It's not as intense as if you were in a gunfight, but you are at your service job and you got some dickhead customer screaming in your face because you put one too many pickles on his fucking $1 cheeseburger, right? Being able to breathe through that situation is what's going to stop you from punching that person in the face. It gives you time to let those emotions go, think logically. This asshole is not worth me losing my job over, and handle the situation more appropriately. Okay. There's all different kinds of situations that we all have throughout our lives. Some of us on a daily basis, depending on what kind of job you have, that we can employ this technique to help us make better decisions. So I said earlier, there's different variations of it. Like I said earlier, there's different names of it. And I didn't lie about that, did I? They gave you the list of names. There is other variations. You don't have to do box breathing. Here's a couple other variations that accomplish the same thing. So this is the breathing method I like to do before bed at any time I need to chill out and relax. And so what is this breathing? This is 4-6 breathing. This is so how to do the 4-6 breathing technique. So I'm going to bypass all of this right here because it's essentially this person's story of how they learned 4-6 breathing and why they use it. Spoiler alert, they use it for the same reasons you would use box breathing. It's almost the same technique. Instead, you do 4-6 breathing as such. Start in a comfortable seated position. Be sure to sit upright, keeping your spine tall. That's more an optional aspect if you're home alone and you're trying to chill or relax yourself. If you're in a situation like you're getting shot at, you don't exactly have time to get into a seated position. So you can do this breathing exercise, all of these breathing exercises, they can be done anywhere. But if you're doing it for the purpose of relaxation and meditation, then you want to be in an upright position, seated with your legs firmly, your feet planted firmly on the ground is usually a preferable position to meditate in. You can also meditate with your legs crossed. That's a very common one in yoga, but in general, that's a good place to start. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, inhale through your nose for 4 counts, letting your chest and belly expand. I'll get into that here in a second. I have a little asterisk to put there. Number 3, slowly exhale through your mouth for 6 seconds. Repeat for 10 minutes. So this one, you breathe in for 4 counts. You don't hold for any counts. And then you exhale out of your mouth for 6 seconds. Okay, I'll make a couple notes here. One, like they said here, again, they mentioned breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Like I said, I like to practice breathing through your nose is an important aspect of this technique. And exhaling through your mouth, I don't know how important that is, but it is something that I like to do. There is a science behind that. I'm not entirely sure what that science is, so I'm not going to try to bullshit you on it. I believe it has something to do with an even further increase in the oxygen that you are getting from one single breath. But I don't know that for sure, so don't entirely quote me on that. But I do believe that that's what the the significance is to breathing in through your nose. It increases the amount of oxygen you get from one individual breath. I know Joe Rogan did a stream one time with a guy who wrote a whole book on breathing, and they talk about the importance of breathing through your nose. And in that particular stream, I wish I could tell you which one it was, but I don't know. They do talk about why it's important to breathe through your nose. And so I'm very loosely giving you that based off my memory. You should just research it. If you're interested in why you should breathe through your nose instead of your mouth, you should just go research it and get the actual studies, because I don't remember what those are. I'd never read anything about it. Also here, they made the note of saying, letting your chest and belly expand. This is, any singers out there that are watching this can tell you this. This is an important aspect of breath control, is breathing with your belly, not with your chest. This says let your chest and your belly expand, which is good, but you'll hear this a lot from vocal coaches. Again, I've worked with plenty of vocal coaches, was in recording studios for 9 years. When you breathe, you want your diaphragm to expand. And the best way to visualize that is to watch your belly expand with your breath, not your chest. Okay, so if you're a singer, you know all about that. You want your diaphragm to expand, not your chest. During the process of this, we want to focus on that diaphragm expanding, focusing on that feeling of your diaphragm, your belly, your chest, all of it getting bigger. Does help to visualize it. It does help to keep your brain off of thinking other things during the process of breathing. And it does help to get a deeper breath. Focusing on that can help you, making sure you're using your diaphragm to breathe, essentially. You'll get a better breath in. That's why vocal coaches teach that. That's why anybody who's had a vocal coach, say it in the chat or say it in the comment section. That's why your vocal coach taught you that. You're going to get a deeper, better breath breathing with your diaphragm. So make sure you're breathing with your tummy, your diaphragm, letting your stomach expand with each breath. That is important to know. And breathe, inhale through your nose, exhale out your mouth. So it is important to note, too, this is a completely different exercise. Instead of breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. You don't even count the holds. You're breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 6. It still gives you the same effect, okay? This technique, 4-6 breathing, still gives you the same effect, as does the next technique, 3-4-5 breathing. Okay, following a positive response to the Box Breathing Mini app, I wanted to offer an alternative breathing pattern visual interface. 3-5-4 breathing, 3-4-5 breathing. That's how the number is counting. I got it wrong. Okay, 3-4-5 breathing utilizes a different rhythm cadence for your breath, a shorter inhale, a brief pause, and a longer exhale. This pattern helps activate your body's relaxation response, making it perfect for moments when you need to calm down. Why 3-4-5 works. The 3-4-5 pattern isn't arbitrary. It's designed to work with your body's natural rhythm. The longer exhale, 5 counts, compared to the inhale, 3 counts, helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the rest and digest state. This gentle emphasis on the exhale naturally helps lower stress levels and promote a sense of calm. So it does the same thing. The brief pause, 4 counts between breaths, allows your body to fully process each breath cycle, making the practice more effective and comfortable than techniques that rush between inhale and exhale. So, let's see. Perfect for daily moments. Yes. Okay, we're good on that. Basically, how do you do 3-4-5 breathing? Inhale for 3 seconds. Hold for 4 inhale for 3 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 5 counts. Inhale for 3 counts, hold your breath for 4 counts, exhale for 5 counts. So we're counting out again the inhale and the exhale. This time we're going to count out the holds after the inhale, but we don't count the hold after the exhale, right? So this is just another way. Again, this does the exact same thing. You'll notice if you go out there and look, I wanted to give you 2 different alternatives to box breathing because it's worth noting. You know, we're going to be talking about it, so we might as well talk about this too, give you all the information out there that exists. It's important to note that there is other variations outside of just these 2. It isn't just 4-4 breathing, 4-6 breathing, and 3-4-5 breathing. There's 5-5 breathing, 3-5 breathing, the whole lot of them. Okay, any combination of 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s exists, right? And if you go out there and you look at them, every single one of them claims to be the best one. This one works better for the parasympathetic. This one gives you more oxygen. This one's just easier to count. And, you know, really, whichever one you want to try, different variations, and see which one works best for you. I can tell you the one the Navy SEALs supposedly employ is box breathing. I found that that was the easiest one to count because it's just 4 counts. There's no changing parts of it. It's just easier to count 4 to 4. It's easier to count to 4 times than it is to count to 3, then 4, then 5, and continue that process for 10 to 15 minutes. I just found it to be easier. 4x4 was easiest for me, and it was still effective. So that's the one I went with, and that's the one I try to employ. Other people are going to enjoy 3-4-5. Some people are going to enjoy 4-6. They're going to say, no, dude, this helps way more. I just feel, well, kind of high. You know, I will say that. I'll go to that here in a second, but they'll say, yeah, man, I just feel it more. Try different variations. Get 4 or 5 variations. Try them all. Maybe try each one for a week over the course of a month. See which week you feel the best at, and then stick with that one. Find the one that works for you. Go with that because they all are designed to do the same thing. And so I'll go back a little bit, retread. I said, it kind of gets you high. That is the feeling of it because you are increasing the amount of oxygen that you are getting into your body. It gives you a slight head high, only for a few minutes. If you get really deep into meditation and you do like box breathing for 20 minutes, the next like hour of your day, you're kind of riding on a head high and a all around just bubbly fucking attitude, right? You're just bubbly. You're just happy about shit. You know, things just roll off your chest and you're a little like not lightheaded, but you feel lighter. Your body feels lighter, like you're kind of walking on a cloud sort of thing, you know? So, you know, even if you just do it just for getting fucking high, it's like the healthiest way to get high that exists, you know? So, it's good for that. But it's more, it's really good for de-stressing. It's good for increasing your mood, making your mood better. It's good for increasing lung capacity. Even doing these breathing exercises actually helps you, you know, if you are a vocalist or, you know, you want to get into swimming or you just quit smoking, this will increase your lung capacity. Looking at you, cutie pie. This can help with that. And it helps with mental toughness. And we kind of went over why it helps with that. In a very stressful situation, if you can make it almost, well, you know, as easy as breathing, it is as easy as breathing. That's all it is. It's breathing. But if you can make it so automatic that when something stressful happens, the minute you get upset or angry or scared, or find yourself in an intense situation, you immediately begin box breathing without even thinking about it. You're priming yourself to be a real fucking badass, dude. Like, because you are the kind of guy that isn't fazed by anything, right? If you're look at people like that, you know, you've seen videos of people online, they got some dude screaming in their face and they're just totally fucking chill, right? They can think of like funny things to say. They can roast that dude because they're not stressed. They're not angry. It doesn't matter what that person says to them. They're just smiling and chilling and laughing and making jokes at their expense. Or you see this with fights. I happen to spend way too much time on Reddit fight porn, which is just videos of people beating each other's asses. And in some videos, you will see that occasional video where one dude is just swinging wildly for the fences and the other guy's just kind of like dodging it, and he just reaches up and bloop, just knocks the fucker out. One well-placed shot. And everybody in the, the Reddit, the subreddit, and the chat, they say, oh, he must be trained. He's probably trained. It's like, well, maybe he could be. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know who the fuck this guy is. He could be trained for sure, or it's just as possible that he wasn't worked up. He wasn't out of his comfort zone. That's probably one of the most important things you learn in MMA training. I do wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Haven't done it in a while. Been hoping to get back into it because it really does improve my confidence, improves my health, improves a lot of things. I just absolutely love it. Recommend it to everybody out there. But the one thing that you get from sparring, whether you're doing kickboxing or, like I said, I did more wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, focus more on those things. When you're doing sparring or rolling, one thing that really helps with doing that every day is it becomes comfortable to have somebody trying to hurt you. You get comfortable with the idea of people throwing punches at your head. You get comfortable being in that space where somebody's throwing a punch at you or trying to lift you up and slam you on your head. And when you get into a space when you're comfortable with that, you don't get worked up. It doesn't freak you out. You're a dangerous motherfucker. That's a moment where you will markedly improve in the gym. One day you'll be just getting your ass beat every roll, every spar. You're just getting worked, man. They're just kicking your ass. Once you get to a point where you can be emotionally and mentally comfortable with getting punched in the face, you're deadly. You will improve like that. It's crazy, man. And because you are able to be in this position and still think logically. And so if you're in a fight with somebody in the real world, somebody's throwing bows at you and they are worked up, they are angry, or they're emotional for whatever reason, they're scared, they're fighting for their life. A lot of people think that I just see red, bro. You hear guys say that, right? Like, I'm just one of those guys that sees red. Like, that's great and everything. Everybody thinks that that's like the height of being a badass. Like, chances are if you're the guy that sees red and you end up picking a fight with a dude that can like be relaxed and chill and cut jokes while he's beating your ass because that's how cool he is, you're going to get your ass beat. I don't give a fuck how much red you see. I don't give a fuck how Hulk you think you get. That dude is going to beat your ass. He is. And he might not even be trained. If he's just comfortable with being in this position, he's going to work you, dude. And there's not a damn thing you're going to be able to do about it. So, if you are in that position where a guy, you see that on the fight porn all the time, guys who are just swinging wildly, screaming, yelling, trying all kinds of moves that they don't even know what they're doing, right? They're like grabbing body parts and just trying to like pull on it. And then there's one guy who's just super chill and he's just dodging punches and just boop, just knocks him out. One good bunk on the nose and fucker's out. And it's like, whoa. It's like, yeah, that dude, if he isn't trained, then the thing is he's really comfortable with fighting. He's gotten used to it, and that's pretty dangerous. So the box breathing, if you can make it a secondary, like a thing that's just as easy as regular breathing, you just do it and don't think about it, you can really improve your response to moments under stress, which is going to greatly improve your performance under stress, whether that be at job interviews, live performance as a musician. A lot of musicians out there, and man, especially if you're starting, live performances are stressful. And I talk to a lot of musicians that say, yeah, it doesn't ever get any easier. You just learn how to enjoy it, right? Same thing I'm talking about with fighting, going to the gym, right? You just learn how to enjoy being in that moment where somebody's trying to beat your ass. But learning box breathing can really, really help with that, okay? So technique number 1, box breathing. You now know how to do it. Gave you a couple different alternatives, gave you the how-to, the explanation for how it works, and why it's important to learn, right? So I think you're pretty caught up to speed on your breathing techniques, man. So let's move on to number 2. Actually, let me take a piss. I need to pee. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I'm going to come back real quick, super, super quick, and then hop right back in because we still got plenty of time. We still got an hour to go over this, but I do want to make sure I get a dive in depth into each technique for you. So once this stream is over with, you're ready to go be a Navy SEAL, homie. All right, I'm gonna get you there. But first, I need a pee, so I'm gonna go do that, and you enjoy this. Be right back, screen. All right, we back? Yeah. Okay, good. Sometimes my headphones, I leave them and they disconnect from my headphone thingy. Okay, so let's continue on to technique number 2, and this is visualization. So, like I said, when I talked about visualization, specifically when it comes to these 4 techniques, I did not mean your vision board, right? I did not mean, your poster board with your fucking house that you want to buy glued onto it or drawn on it with crayon. This is not that type of visualization. We're going to go over this visualization has 2, I'm going to go ahead and say 3 big benefits. I'm going to go over specifically how the book goes over it, Mr. Eric Potterot's general, what you're supposed to be doing while you're visualizing. And then we're going to go over some very similar visualization techniques. Some of these articles go over why it works, the benefits, all that good stuff, okay? But I do want to cover specifically the how-to from the Navy SEALs. So let's hop back to my rant screen. There we are. Beard looks good. A little crazy on this side. I might need my cutie pie. Cut my beard. Okay, so visualization. When Mr. Eric Potterot is talking about visualization, what he means is to visualize how you're going to accomplish something, okay? He means find a goal, find what is important for you to achieve in a particular situation, and learn to visualize it, okay? Learn to visualize yourself after you have succeeded at said goal, and learn and visualize what the process is going to look like. And in that process of visualizing, you will want to visualize what sort of issues you could run into in the course of achieving your goal. Okay, because you got to remember, this is all done in the context of mental toughness. A lot of these techniques also help with relaxation and calming your minds, improving your mood. They all do that too. All these techniques do that too. But they also improve your ability to get through difficult situations in life, which makes a lot of sense, right? The key to getting through difficulties in life is to maintain a positive mindset and a calm demeanor during said stressful situation. Makes sense, right? That's really, at the end of the day, that's what mental toughness is being able to do things that other people are too scared to do, be able to get through situations that other people would quit. And the way that you do that is to maintain positivity and maintain a calm mind during the course of it, okay? So let's use an example how visualization helps with with say a stressful situation, right? A moment when you're under stress. it does three things for you. It increases your positive thinking. Okay, visualizing yourself succeeding gives you, well, a positive frame of mind. Okay, sort of a like, I know I can do this because I've seen myself do it in your brain. You're visualizing yourself succeeding, so it increases your positivity. Two, it helps you strategize, which kind of doing going through these strategies. Like I said, the process that Mr. Eric Potterrot goes over, which I'll go into in depth a little more here in a sec. You are going to strategize what things could potentially happen that are going to stop you from, say, achieving a particular goal. And you're going to visualize yourself going over those hurdles, so to speak, and succeeding. What are you going to do to get through those hurdles, right? Um, and I'll use an example to help us understand, visualize the process of visualizing a little bit better. But that gives you the third benefit, which it prepares you for any specific situation. So if you are in a difficult situation in life and you have visualized your way through this situation, you have strategized through it mentally, it's going to decrease how much stress this situation creates. So let's go over a couple different examples. Times when I've used visualizations, times when other people have, when it's effective, when it's been effective for them. Okay. I'm going to use, let's see. So a very simple example, a moment of, say, jujitsu. Let's do jujitsu. That's a great one. You don't have to know anything about jujitsu to get this example, but this is a moment in my life where I've used visualization multiple times. Okay. When you're rolling in jujitsu, it can be stressful. If you are, especially if you're rolling with somebody who's a lot better than you and they're kicking your ass, it can suck. It's physically painful. It takes a lot of energy to wrestle with another person, especially somebody who, say, is bigger than you and better than you and more athletic than you. It is a lot of cardio. You're using a lot of muscles. You run out of breath really, really quick. And the pressure is constant. You constantly have another person putting their body weight against you and turning your limbs in directions that they should not turn in. It can be, especially if you haven't done it, it can be scary at first, but it's definitely physically stressful. It is very fast paced, and it is mentally stressful, and it is physically painful. So in the 5-minute roll that you're doing in a jiu-jitsu class, that is a stressful moment. It is. So especially if you're not used to it and you're new to it, it can be very stressful. As you go through it, after a few months, you get more and more used to it and it becomes a lot funner. But for the first few classes, most people aren't really having a good time, unless you can mentally get used, again, accept the idea of, say, getting your ass kicked, get comfortable with it from the get-go, go to class saying, hey, man, I'm not going to win nothing today. I'm going to get my ass beat. And that's okay. As long as I get through it like a boss and not cry and bitch like a little girl, I will consider today a success. If you go into any sort of MMA training with that frame of mind, you're going to do a lot better. So I highly recommend that if you're interested in it. But anyways, so say, and I've done this before, I got a guy in my class that I'm going to roll with tonight, and he is way good. Okay, but I've rolled with him a few times. I know he's good. I know he's better than me because he's beat my ass before. We're going to roll tonight. I know what sort of things he is going to try when we're rolling. There's specific techniques that specific people like, techniques that people are working on, trying to perfect for when they go to the competitions. They're really good at these techniques. I know what techniques I want to perfect, but I kind of know what his game plan is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to visualize before I go to class, before I roll with this dude, I'm going to visualize that roll. Okay. No poster boards, no pictures of me and my gi winning or me and my little Speedo winning the match. I don't roll in a Speedo, but me and my shorty shorts, my wrestling shorts winning the match. Okay. I'm going to visualize, sit down, close my eyes and actually visualize the process of me walking into that gym, shaking hands, saying to him, I'm going to beat your ass, son. I mean, I don't talk that way to people, but I'm going to, in my mind, I know I'm going to get this guy this time. Okay. And then we go to roll, and I'm going to visualize, how is he going to start? What position is he going to start in? He really likes to go for ankle shoot. He really likes to go for ankle picks, right? But I got him there. I know I can get an ankle pick because I'm slightly shorter than him. So I'm not going to worry about that. But where he always fucks me up at, I'm going to visualize that ankle pick. He's ankle picking me right now. You can't see it, but I can see it. I can see him going for the ankle pick, but I know he's not going to get it. I'm going to sprawl. I've been working on my sprawls. Okay. But once I sprawl, he's going to come out the back of that sprawl really quick. He's really good at reversing sprawls, and that's where he always gets me. So when I go to sprawl, I'm going to have to make sure that I really tighten up that left side. I'm going to have to make sure that perhaps maybe I spin over to the right, or maybe I spin to the left when he tries to go to the left. I'm going to walk my legs to the left, and I'm going to block off that left where he likes to go underneath the sprawl, swim out of it. Okay, if I can block him there, I can keep him in turtle, but he's really good in turtle. He's been working on his turtle. So turtle is a defensive maneuver in jiu-jitsu, and some people they're immovable blocks when they get into the turtle, okay? But I've been working on turtle. So when he gets in a turtle, I'm going to wrap over his back leg. I'm going to put my head right in the middle of his ribs, and I'm just going to grind those fucking ribs until he fucking squeezes tight. And then I'm going to pull that leg, whip that head over, and try to roll him over onto his back, okay? Now, what are some difficulties that I'm going to run into during this process? Well, I might not be able to move him in that position. So what am I going to do if I can't get him to get out of turtle? Well, then I'm just going to stay on top of him, but I'm going to stay loose. I'm going to stay on my toes, legs away from him so he can't pick that ankle, but I'm going to stay with my chest on his head, and I'm going to stay really loose, ready to move, okay? And what is he probably going to do from there? Well, he's probably going to do this or this. Now, what does he do? What do I do when he does that? Okay, say it doesn't work out, and he gets me on my back, and he gets me on the mount. He's on top of me. He's squeezing the breath out of my lungs. What am I going to do from here? Okay, well, I'm going to get the elbows in. I know what I'm going to do. I've been working on it. I'm going to dig my elbows in his thighs and just grind that shit out, push him back, get a frame on him, turn my body, and I'm going to squeeze my leg out, okay? And I'm going to work very slowly. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to remember to box breathe when I'm in that position, and I'm going to slowly push my body out from underneath him, right? That's what I'm going to do, okay? And if he tries to get up, which he might try to put his leg up. If he does that, I'm going to sweep him. I've been working on my sweeps. I think I can sweep him. I can pull his gi down, pull him over onto his side. That's going to be my plan of attack, okay? So I visualize every step of this. I visualize I visualize me stopping everything that he tries to do. And I visualize me pulling him out of turtle. I visualize me pushing out of his mount. I visualize me not being able to push out of his mount, and what I'm going to do from there. I visualize every possible way that this match can go. And then I visualize me getting his back, wrapping my legs around him, tightening that ankle, getting a little knife in, getting right under his throat, crunch that shit up, squeeze that fucking head, pop it like a grape. No, I don't visualize that, but I squeeze that shit and him tapping. I visualize the tap. I visualize how it's going to feel, how out of breath I'm going to be. I visualize me and him getting up, shaking hands, him saying, damn, you finally got me for once. You're not as much of a pussy as I thought. And me saying, that's right, dog. I visualize all of it, okay? From start to finish, every way that this could possibly go, a strategy for each way that it could go. Make sure that I got as many different potential outcomes as I can visualized, go through each one move by move, visualize it as much as I possibly can. A good strategy is to do 10 minutes of meditation before you visualize, because then you'll get yourself into a state of mind where you're very relaxed. Your mind isn't focusing on so many things. It's much easier to zone out on that visualization and visualize it in much deeper, richer detail, which does help a lot. Okay. That's the process of visualization in a nutshell. That's what you're doing. That's what the Navy SEALs do. They put that very heavily into practice. When the Navy SEALs are about to go on a mission, they do a lot of planning ahead, a lot of strategizing. They have a lot of backstops, which is, what do we do if this fucks up? What do we do if we go to this place and the guy that we need to kill isn't there, and instead there's 50 other dudes? What do we do? This is the process for that. What do we do if we accidentally drive past the point at which we needed to stop? This is where you double deck. What if we get there and they got heavy artillery? This is how you handle that. They go through it as a team and visualize together. They don't close their eyes and sing Kumbaya and all of a sudden in the middle of a tent, but they sit there with a map, they go over it, and they go over a visual over and over and over the game plan, burn it into their brains. They visualize the same thing over and over and over until they all memorized what the backstops are, what the alternatives are if something gets fucked up. Something goes, I think they call it foobar. If something goes foobar, what do they do to fix the situation? By the end of it, they should all be, okay. If they did it correctly, they do it so many times, a visualization on one specific thing, that by the time those situations arise, everybody on team has it memorized what happens next. And that's the visualization we're actually talking about. Not just, visualize me with a bunch of, big stacks of money, Scrooge McDuck diving in my coins, very strategic visualization. And it helps to continuously do it. The more times you can visualize one specific situation, like, I'll go in to roll that night and it might not work out. That guy ends up kicking my ass. He throws out a new technique that I didn't even know he knew. I don't even know what the name of that technique is. I'm like, what the fuck did you just do? And he's like, I did this. And, yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay. First time I've ever ran into that. Okay. Next time, before next class, I sit back down and I visualize myself beating that guy. I go through the same process, but this time I make a plan for when he is going to throw that move on me. And I do a little extra planning. Visualization benefits from doing some extra planning in your spare time. If he threw out a Darce choke and that's how he got me, and I didn't know what a Darce choke was, I have never ran into that before. The first thing I'm going to do when I get home is I get online and I type in how to defend a Darce choke, and I find a video on it, and I'll watch the video. This is how you defend against somebody Darce choking you. And I'll put that into my visualization. Okay. And I'll do that. I'll maybe go through the visualization for 15, 20 minutes before I go to roll with that guy every time I go to class. And I keep doing that until I finally beat him. That's how visualization works. That's how you employ this particular method of visualization. So that's what we're talking about, the process we're talking about when we're talking about Mr. Eric Potterot's visualization for like Navy SEALs. Okay, that's what they're actually doing. They are visualizing the thing that they want to accomplish. They are visualizing themselves accomplishing it. They're visualizing every way in which every hurdle they could run into in the process of trying to accomplish it. They visualize a realistic way to get over that hurdle. If you don't know how to get over a particular hurdle, then you need to research that in your spare time and then visualize yourself employing the means by which you would get over that particular hurdle. They envision all of that every time they visualize it, and they visualize it numerous times over and over and over again until the plan is set in stone inside their brain. That's the process of visualization that you want to start employing. Sounds like a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of work. Well, yeah, if you're going to do it like, if I have to visualize every time I go cut my fucking grass, right? I'm going to visualize how I'm going to mow my lawn. You don't really need to do that, right? You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to visualize every day of work unless your day of work is stressful. What you need to do is find out the specific situations in which you find yourself stressed out at work. Okay. You don't need to visualize your entire day flipping burgers at McDonald's. You just need to visualize that one moment when some fuckhead walks in and is pissed off because you put too many pickles on his $1 McCheeseburger, right? Visualize that scenario. Go over all the possibilities of things that could happen. Visualize yourself employing that box breathing and the other techniques we'll speak about here. Visualize you succeeding in that situation and do it every day before work. And I guarantee you, it will help. In my experience, it absolutely does help. In scientific studies, it helps. People who employ this method of visualization, which combines the strategizing and a little bit of research, it improves their stress levels when undergoing a stressful situation. Okay, this is something that Olympic athletes employ. Okay, we read Mr. Eric Potterot worked with Olympic athletes. I guarantee you, I would bet you all the money I have that he taught Olympic athletes how to do this. I have read stories, books, excerpts from Olympic athletes who employ visualization daily. They are every day. They visualize themselves winning in the Olympics. And what do they visualize? They visualize themselves getting the gold. They visualize everything that could go wrong during their sporting events and how they're going to fix what could go wrong, how they're going to make up for it, how they're going to prepare for that potentiality. And they visualize all of that every day over and over again. So it's meant for you to visualize one specific event. And, you know, another place where it can be, you know, it's not as effective because you're talking about a whole series of events versus one specific event. It works best when you're visualizing the one specific event, right? Before it happens, like you visualizing yourself performing on a stage, going to your first boxing match, rolling at jiu-jitsu, squatting. I don't like squatting. Visualizing yourself killing it in the squats. I used to do 10-mile runs. I worked my way up to running 10 miles, and I hated it. It was god-awful. I would visualize the 10-mile run. We'll be talking about a man here, David Goggins, here in a little bit. He uses this visualization for his 130-mile runs. He learned it from the Navy SEALs, this visualization. So that's how you employ it effectively. And it works best for specific events. Stressful events that you know you're going to be a part of, like, say, a job interview, visualizing the job interview every day before the interview. Yes, scientifically, it will help your performance, your stress levels during the interview, and your performance, the potential for you to succeed. The odds of you succeeding at that interview go up. And they can go up very high. Okay, but it's combining a whole series of things. Remember, it's combining positivity, you visualizing yourself winning, with strategy, a realistic strategy, realistically analyzing what are the hurdles that I could go through, and then a little bit of research. If you don't know how to get through specific hurdles, do a little bit of research. It's really like mental practice, really. They have done studies. I'm going to reference, I don't have the study up in front of me, but I know they've done this study, so I am going to speak on it a little bit, even if I don't remember everything exact. But they've done studies with guitar. They take a guitarist and they have him practice every day. They take another set of people, they have them do absolutely nothing with guitar. And then they have a control group of people that just visualize what they're supposed to practice for an hour every day. And when they go back and they research who improved the most on guitar, they've done this study too, by the way, with lifting weights. People who lift weights every day, people who do nothing every day, then people who just visualize lifting weights every day. In both studies, the people who practiced had the best results. They got the best at guitar. They had the most increases in muscle mass. The group that did nothing got nothing out of it. In fact, in a lot of ways, they got worse at guitar or they decreased in muscle mass. Okay. But the people that just visualized, they got better. They didn't get as good as the people who practiced, but they still got better. They got markedly better. In fact, people who just visualize working out, yeah, they actually increased their muscle mass by just visualizing themselves working out. For an hour a day, mind you, that's a long time to just sit and visualize working out. But that's what they did. And yes, they built muscle. Okay? Visualization is very powerful. You just need to do it correctly. That's the point. You're putting up the poster board with the fucking Scrooge McDuck. It's not how you visualize shit, son. The appropriate way to visualize things is using strategy, positivity, and research. Putting research into your strategy. That's how you appropriately visualize, okay? And making sure that that visualization is very in-depth, as detailed as possible. And you do it as regularly as you can. And like I was about to say, I'm going to say it now. It can be beneficial to visualize, say you have a career, you want to be a famous singer one day, you want to be a famous guitarist, visualizing yourself becoming a famous guitarist, your career, that can be very helpful. Do it every day for 30 minutes. Visualize yourself becoming that person you want to be. Visualize the hurdles you're going to jump into. Research how to get past those hurdles and employ that into your visualization can be very beneficial. It's not going to be as beneficial as just visualizing specific events, because this isn't a specific event. This is a whole series of events that is going to take for you to get to this spot, right? But visualizing specific events can really greatly help you in rigging the outcome of that event in your favor, right? So let's go over some of the data that they have on positive visualization, scientific benefits of visualization. Positive visualization is the practice of using mental imagery to attune yourself to your desired outcomes and goals by imagining yourself achieving them. Potential benefits of visualizing positive imagery include improved motivation, confidence, and resilience in overcoming challenges. That's that mental toughness, resilience, right? Using the latest evidence from clinical research, this article explores whether the reported benefits of visualization practices are scientifically supported. So what is positive visualization? This is slightly different than the visualization we talked about, but it's a part of it, right? Positivity is a part of the visualization we were speaking of. Visualization is the act of forming mental images in your mind's eye. Positive visualization refers to the practice of visualizing favorable outcomes for various scenarios, akin to rehearsing them mentally. This technique leverages the mind's power to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Research highlights the transformative influence of positive mental imagery or cognitive function, emotional resilience, emotional resilience and behavior. In essence, visualizing yourself achieving your goals can help attune your physiology to the actions and steps needed to get there. Physiologically, my bad. The science behind visualization. Scientists have looked into the validity and effectiveness of visualization techniques to determine if there is any scientific benefits of improved well-being. Tori Wager, director of the Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience Laboratory at the University of Boulder, Colorado, remarks, "Imagination is a neurological reality that can impact our brains and bodies in ways that matter for our well-being." Research into the benefits of visualization involves using brain imaging studies to monitor its impact on neural pathways. The latest scientific findings indicate that visualizing ourselves doing something not only alters our brain pathways, but also forges new connections that could be beneficial for making our desired outcomes a reality. Imagining ourselves engaged in an activity stimulates the regions of the brain responsible for movement, effectively warming up the brain to perform the activity. This cognitive practice enhances our ability to coordinate the necessary steps towards achieving our goals. Recent research highlights that visualization could improve outcomes for patients recovering from a stroke, dancers learning a routine, or professional athletes in training. Researchers posit that imagination can be used to improve mental health, overcome fears, make decisions, and reach goals. Brain scans of participants in a 12-week guided positivity imagery study showed improvements in cognitive function, emotional states, and nonverbal reasoning. Positive visualization, in particular, was shown to correlate with increased neural activity in the parts of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, empathy, social cognition, and creative processing. So, the benefits of regular visualization. Now, I want to point out they are talking about positive visualization. They haven't said anything about the strategic aspect of the visualization, which is an important component to Eric Potterot's style of visualization, okay? Just want to make that note. That's why I took the time, so much time, to explain it to you what the process looks like, because we're not going to go over it in one of these articles. This is just kind of giving you some backing to why it's important. So, and how it works mentally too. That's what we're learning right now. How does this actually make a difference in your brain? When you vividly engage all 5 senses in your visualization, you can trick your mind into believing you already have what you want. In other words, a part of your brain confuses imagination with reality. Consistent practice of visualization can empower you with the confidence to instigate behavioral changes, potentially propelling you toward the future you envision. Positive visualization as a motivational tool has been recommended by big names such as Oprah Winfrey, Muhammad Ali, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger has said that he applied visualization techniques to his bodybuilding, acting, and political careers. He said, "You create a vision of who you want to be, and then you live that picture as if it were already true." Jim Carrey did something similar. I don't know if you've heard the story. Jim Carrey wrote a check for himself for $10 million, kept it in his wallet, and in sort of a way to hold himself to that. And then one day cashed that check to himself for $10 million when he finally had it. Beyond helping people achieve their goals, regulate emotions, cope, and improve relationships, here are some evidence-based benefits of positive visual imagery. Performance and motivation. The benefits of visualization extend beyond mental well-being and into physical prowess. Researchers have linked visualization to better performance outcomes for athletes. A 2022 review of the available research on visualization for athletic performance determined that visualizing success could have extraordinary benefits for athletes. Professional boxing champion Muhammad Ali once remarked, "If my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it." There is a scientific merit to that statement. Another study observed the effects of visualization practices on muscle power. You see, I never lie to you. I've never lied. Yielding noteworthy results. By simply thinking about training their muscles, participants increase their muscular strength by 35%. That's fucking crazy. I didn't know it was that high. I thought it was like 3.5%. They might be missing a decimal here because I could have sworn the study that I read anyways, they increased their strength by 3.5%, not 35%. So they might be missing that might be the same study. Again, that's kind of an odd coincidence that in my head I'm thinking 3.5 and they say 35. I think they might just be missing a decimal between that. But 3.5% is no small beans, okay? Don't go doing this 3.5. No, that's a big deal. That's a big fucking deal. To just think about it? Come on, dude. Researchers reported that the link between visualization and increased muscle strength was a result of neural pathways increasing the activation of muscle responses. Health. Visualization practices could lead to healthier behaviors. One study found that first-person visualization of healthy behavior, such as eating more fruit, resulted in positive behavioral outcomes, like eating more fruit. It is also notable that participants in the study had the strongest outcomes when they set the intention to increase fruit consumption by reading a message about the health benefits of fruit consumption. So they're kind of adding a little bit of that research in there, right? Decision-making and confidence. A 2023 systematic review of the available literature on the benefits of visualization for decision-making explored the benefits of positive visualization for comprehension. The study found that visualization techniques could not only improve the outcomes of decision-making, but also improve the speed at which people make decisions. Confident decision-making is a valuable skill for leadership or simply taking control of your life and well-being. The systemic review found that visualization had benefits for decision accuracy, response time, decision confidence, attitude, and willingness to act. Willingness to act may be a significant determination in whether or not someone achieves their goals. Visualization can be used as a tool to help you make challenging life decisions with confidence. Visualization can be used as a tool to overcome fears of potential outcomes that can hold people back from acting towards their goals. So, there you have it. How to practice. This is we'll go through the how to practice and the tips. We'll do that. We have time. So, do you want to experience the benefits of visualization for yourself? Yeah, let's go over. Okay. Tip 1, determine your goal. What do you hope to accomplish or manifest in your life? Step number 2, visualize yourself in a specific scenario. Go through each step as if you were really there, engaging all 5 senses with your imagination. Ooh, that's a real good tip. Yes, it really helps to remind yourself how you're going to feel in that moment. What is the feeling going to be? When I imagine my role, I'm imagining being short of breath. I'm imagining the tension on my stomach when he's squeezing the air out of me. I'm imagining the smell of all the nasty sweat and shit in the air. Like, engaging the senses really helps to increase the potency of the visualization. Really good point. Step number 3, focus on experiencing every moment as vividly as possible and allow yourself to feel your emotions as the visualization unfolds, such as how it feels to finally achieve your goal. And 4, visualize any potential setbacks, then visualize yourself overcoming them. See, okay, now we're getting into the steps that Mr. Eric Potteroth speaks of, okay? So that's important. That to me is one of the most important aspects. So here's some tips for effective visualization. Daily routine. Make visualization a part of your daily routine by setting aside a specific time to practice, such as in the morning or before bedtime. Try to practice visualization for at least 10 minutes daily to establish a consistent habit. Yeah, this is with all 4 of these techniques, making it a habit is the most important aspect, right? 2, mindfulness. Combine visualization with mindfulness and meditation techniques to heighten awareness of the present moment. See, I told you, Tony never lies. Number 3, Senses. Incorporate all 5 senses into the visualization to have their most substantial psychological impact. Be aware of what you can see, hear, feel, taste, and smell in each moment. 5. That's 4. Never mind. 4. Writing. Establish a script of how the scenario will play out scene by scene. The more detailed, the better. Be sure to note how you feel at each point in the scenario. And 5. Vision board. They're going to bring the vision board in. Okay, well, create a vision board, which is a collection of photos, quotes, and images that represent your goals and vision for the future. Store your vision board in a place where you spend a lot of time. Keeping it in your line of sight throughout the day can reinforce the power of your vivid visualizations. Okay, so they're saying use the vision board in conjunction with your visualizations. Okay, I've never done the vision board. I really don't care about the vision board. But if you want to employ it, you really enjoy making vision boards, then have at it, bro. But do it in conjunction with actual visualization. Oh, I just realized none of you guys can see my screen. Sorry about that. Well, you had me there to read it for you, but I do want to go back to the screen so you can at least take a gander at it, maybe save it. I got to make sure I don't do that. Importance of visualization. Okay, so this is the screen. Let me just give you a minute. If somebody finds this on YouTube, you can pause the video and write down these steps. These are the 4 steps to visualization right there before you. So just pause it and write it down. And here are the tips for positive visualization. Okay, you can pause the video right now and write those down for yourself. Okay, the power of visualization and how to use it. We already kind of went over it. Visualization in sports, visualization at work, visualization in practice. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to skip this particular slide. If you want to look it up yourselves, this is just a Forbes article. Forbes, the power of visualization and how to use it. This article kind of touches on what I kind of already touched in my rant screen, which is why we're not going to step on it or going to jump into it, because we already covered the process. That last slide gave us more of the scientific information for how it works, and the benefit of why it works. Okay, I went over that myself. The last slide also went over that, why it works. Again, I want to stress the important aspect of all these techniques is to make a habit out of it. The visualization really works best when you're doing it regularly every day. So that's when it really, you start seeing effects from it. That's when you start getting dividends out of this. With all of these, it really only works when you turn it into a habit. When you've turned box breathing into a thing that you just naturally do whenever you're stressed, that's when it becomes a fucking superpower. Same with visualization. Visualization only really becomes effective and really becomes noticeable in your life once you've done it regularly every day and have made it into that habit. So we're going to move on to the third technique because we only got 20 minutes left in the stream. If I have to, I'll absolutely go over my allotted time to give you the most out of these 4 techniques that I can. I just get really excited about it and then I start talking and then I start ranting, which is kind of part of the reason why I wanted to start a Twitch stream, because I'm a ranter. I fucking love ranting. There's nothing I can do about it. I love to hear myself talk. So it is what it is. But I'll give you more information and I'll stay here longer. This will end up being maybe a 2.5 hour stream today, if necessary, 3-hour stream if necessary, so we can get all the information. Okay. So we're going to go into habit number 3 of the Navy SEALs, which is positive self-talk. So let's go ahead and what I got here. Yeah, there we go. Positive self-talk. This is a kind of, I believe this was an article telling us how self-talk works, the importance of it. And then I got a second article we're going to go over here, which is not loaded for some reason. Oh no. I hope this article, there it is. Okay. Which is going to give us a how to change your self-dialogue, inner dialogue, self-talk, self-dialogue, inner monologue. They call it different things. It all means the same thing. So this is the third habit that Eric Potterrott taught the Navy SEALs to teach their candidates. Always have a positive voice in your head. When you are going in this is most important again when you are in stressful times, right? When things are stressful, when life is not working out the way you thought it would, that's when positive self-talk is the most important, right? When everything's good, you're going to notice if you pay attention to your inner dialogue, which I'm hoping this next article goes over how to pay attention to your inner dialogue. If not, then I'll go over that with you, because that is the first step in changing your inner dialogue, is you have to learn how to catch your inner dialogue. But you'll notice once you get into the habit of catching your inner dialogue, when things are going good, you'll notice that your inner dialogue is good. Your inner dialogue is in la la land. You're driving around thinking about all kinds of shit, like the movie you watched last night, what you're going to do this weekend, this, that, and the other thing. It's only when life really is kicking you in the pants that you that you end up being a little, what's the word I'm looking for? That you end up having a negative self-talk. That's when your and that's when your positive voice, your inner dialogue, is the most important. Okay, so yeah, that's important. I just thought I heard some music. Music just popped up. I don't know how that happened, but anyways, whatever. I thought I could have sworn I just heard that. Did you guys hear that in the stream? Did anybody? Cutie Pie, are you watching? Did you just hear music pop up? Or was that just me? Am I just high? I've been doing too much of that box breathing is what happened. Okay, well, whatever. All right, so yeah, let's get into this isn't a how to do the positive self-talk. That's the next. This is how changing your inner dialogue can affect your well-being. So let's get into this, all right? So the mind is a powerful thing. Within the mind exists a potent force that shapes our perceptions, emotions, and actions, and that is self-talk. This internal dialogue, the ongoing conversation we have with ourselves, can either be a powerful ally or a formidable adversary. In this article, we will dive into the influence of positive self-talk on mental health and explore how harnessing this force can lead to improved well-being. So there you go. That's what we're going to get into. Self-talk is the constant stream of thoughts and words that run through our minds. These internal messages can be either positive or negative, and they significantly impact our mental health. Negative thinking tends to be self-critical and pessimistic, while positive thinking is nurturing and encouraging. Well, you guys didn't, but still important to note. So here's the impact that negative internal voice can have on your life. Negative talking to the self can have a profound and detrimental impact on your mental health. Increased stress and anxiety, constant self-criticism and worry can elevate stress and anxiety levels, leading to a continuous state of tension. Lowered self-esteem. This erodes self-esteem and self-worth, making individuals feel less capable and confident. Depression. Persistent negative thinking is closely linked to depression as it reinforces feelings of hopelessness and despair. Impaired problem solving. When we engage in negativity, our ability to find effective solutions to problems diminishes as we tend to focus on obstacles rather than possibilities. So there you have it. A lot of bad things come out of negative thinking. You know, I, for one, can tell you that, yeah, it's like, well, it's the opposite of positivity. We just kind of went over how the positive visualization is such an important aspect of visualization. Without that positivity, man, the negative side of that, it can be just as powerful. If the positivity side is powerful, then the negativity side is just the opposite side of that coin, and it's equally as powerful. So the transformative power of positivity. So on the other hand, positive self-talk can be a catalyst for mental health improvement. It can reduce your stress. Okay, positive thinking promotes a sense of calm and optimism, reducing stress levels and promoting relaxation. Okay, I hope you've noticed throughout this conversation, all three of the techniques we've talked about help with the relaxation, calming, and decreasing of stress, right? We've kind of already went over that. Enhanced self-confidence. When we replace self-doubt with self-assurance, our self-esteem grows, helping us to tackle challenges with better confidence. Improved mood. Positive thoughts can elevate your mood, increase happiness, and decrease symptoms of depression. And better resilience. It enhances our ability to bounce back from setbacks and face adversity with a more optimistic outlook. Okay, so that's why positivity matters, right? And that's why having an inner dialogue that is positive matters. So we're going to go into a couple strategies, and that's the end of this article. Yeah, we'll jump into the strategies, and then I'm going to go to the rant screen for a second. Changing your inner dialogue takes practice and patience. Fuck. Okay. Like I said, the hardest part of these mental toughness techniques is learning how to make them habits. They're not joking. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience with yourself, man. You got to be patient with yourself on this. But the benefits are well worth the effort. Here are some strategies to help cultivate positive self-talk. You definitely want to pause this screen and write these down for yourself if it's important to you. Self-awareness. Begin by paying attention to your inner dialogue. Notice when you're engaging in negative thinking and identify recurring patterns. 2, challenge negative thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself if they are based on facts or assumptions. 3, replace negative talk with positive talk. Replace self-critical thoughts with more constructive and encouraging ones. For example, replace "I can't do this" with "I can learn and improve." 4, use affirmations. Create positive affirmations that resonate with you and repeat them regularly. These affirmations can reinforce positivity. You especially want to get into the habit of using affirmations. I have used positive affirmations, by the way. They work the best in my humble experience, anecdotal, not scientific. In my anecdotal experience, they work best when you learn to do them at the right times. Okay. And doing them throughout the day at random times can help burn them into your brain and make it a habit. But learning to say these positive things to yourself when not so positive things are happening in your life, that's when it really matters, right? And lastly, practice gratitude. Focus on the things you are grateful for. This can shift your perspective towards positivity. I got a lot to say about that. We're going to keep this slide up so I can go back to these points here in a minute. But I do want to talk about the transformative power of positivity, why this is so important. So, I mean, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. Here's the rundown: is the reduced stress, more confidence, better mood, better resilience. Really, this is what all these techniques improve. Okay. So this is why I'm excited to talk with you guys about this, is because, it doesn't just help mental toughness. All 4 of these techniques for improving mental toughness really are techniques for improving quality of life, right? And so positive self-talk, give me a second. Positive self-talk really improves outcomes for yourself. It is a process. Like I said, it's no joke. It definitely takes a long time to get into it. I'm going to go over some tips for you on that process right now, but it's definitely is worth doing. It almost changes when you can have a positive view of yourself. Okay, we're going to go to the rant screen for a second. When you can have a positive view of yourself, it is much easier to have a positive view of the rest of the world. And I'm not talking about being like overly optimistic, head in the clouds, what people nowadays would call toxic positivity. I do believe that is a thing. If you are incapable of just accepting like, hey, things are shitty right now, and it's harder for you to focus on making things better. You do want to be a realist. I'm not talking about being optimistic to the point that you're being unrealistic, but being optimistic on a regular basis is going to improve outcomes. It is. This I can say for experience with myself. Bit of a, I guess, personal story, So one of the big reasons that I got into therapy, there's a lot of reasons I got into therapy, and I talked about it on my stream with cognitive therapy on what is cognitive behavioral therapy. One big moment where I realized I should probably get some professional help in my life. When I was starting my own business, I was starting a recording studio with a group of friends. We had an investor come in with a big fucking pot full of money, man, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just dropped it on us and said, okay, I'll pay you. I'll give you this money to build a studio, and then I get some ownership in the studio. So we gave him ownership in the studio, took his money. One of the conditions of taking his investment money was to go through a system that he not necessarily designed, but believed in for creating successful people. He had his own little, I guess you could call it an ideology. I don't think it's in like, not like Scientology or nothing like that, or like a religion or anything of that extent, but it was just a system that he believed in strongly, that he employed at his own companies for all of his own employees. We had to go through this specific system, right? And while we're going through it, a part of what so it's about me and four other guys, about five of us, including him, sitting in a room, and he says, okay, I'm going to introduce you guys to a concept. You guys need to go out and you need to be aware of your inner monologue. Okay. So this is the first step in this whole positive self-talk journey. This is the first step you're going to take. Okay. Tomorrow, wake up and pay attention throughout the day. I mean, go about your day, but throughout the day, if you have to set alarms on your phone to remind you, go ahead and do that. But make sure from the moment you get up, tell yourself the goal for today is to pay attention to what my brain is saying, not to say specific things, but to just pay attention. I just want to be able to pick out at any moment what it is I'm saying to myself, right? And he said, I want you guys to do that tomorrow, okay? What you're going to find is your brain, your inner monologue is almost assuredly saying something negative to you, okay? It could be saying a lot of positive things, but it's assuredly saying something bad about you, right? I want you to go home, listen to your inner monologue, and write down the negative things that you catch yourself saying to yourself, right? And it takes practice. It does. The first time you do it, you might only think about it maybe 3 or 4 times a day. Be like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to think about what I'm thinking about, which is a crazy concept. All right. I'm supposed to think about what I'm thinking about. Yeah. Well, you'll get better at it. You'll get better at catching yourself, especially if you make it a habit to catch negative thoughts, right? If you think every day I think something negative, I'm going to stop myself. And then later on in the day, eventually you'll get to the point where you think something negative and you're like, oh, I just thought something negative. That's the first step, getting really good at catching yourself thinking these negative thoughts. But the first step is to just getting used to thinking about what you're thinking about, getting used to listening to that inner monologue instead of just letting it go through without any kind of control on your part. So that's what this man told us to do, our investor at the studio. He told us to do that. Go home and write down what your voice says to you. Okay. So I went home and I did that. And I wrote down what it said to me, my inner voice, and then went back. And mind you, I had a lot of things happening at that moment in my life. I had a girlfriend who I was going to be getting married to that went to rehab and stopped talking to me, and then came out of rehab with a new boyfriend and a baby, or pregnant. Had my childhood best friend had overdosed. My little brother was in prison. I lost my job and was building a studio and had no money. It was a difficult time in life. When it rains, it pours kind of scenario, right? We've all been through difficult times. That was one of my difficult moments in life. A lot was going on. And we go to the next day, we show up to our meeting, and he goes around the room to say, okay, so what did your negative voice say about you? And thank God he didn't stop on me first, because by the time he got around to me, I realized I can't tell anybody in this room what my voice said to me, because everybody else, they're like, my voice told me that I don't work hard enough. That was one guy's. And another guy said, my voice told me that I'm not going to be a good boss, or my voice told me that my employees don't respect me. Valid concerns, not to discredit what these people, those are things that your negative voice should say to you. My inner monologue told me that I'm a piece of shit and I should die. And I knew that I probably shouldn't say that in the room, so I completely made something up on the spot and said, yeah, my inner monologue said, he's an asshole. That's what my inner monologue told me Jeff is a jerk. Something like that, make a joke out of it, whatever. But I did take it seriously, and I went home and I counted. I took a week to count how many times a day my inner voice said that to me. And I took the whole day to really focus on it. And I wrote it every single time. I told myself, I'm a piece of shit and I deserve to die. I wrote it. I made I made a note in my phone. And I told myself that 300 times a day. I told myself I'm a piece of shit and I deserve to die. And that's when I realized, you know what? I don't think I can contend with this. I think I need to go see a therapist, right? Because this was the first time in my life that I realized this was what was happening in other points in my life where I had essentially given up. Okay, I went to therapy for the very specific reason that I had had a lot of issues in my life. And what had actually saved me in those other issues in my life was that those other times in my life, what saved my life, I guess, was I ended up smoking meth. Believe it or not. Yeah, because the way meth works is it makes your brain scatter so you can't think on any one subject for too long, especially if you're hurting inside. It won't let you think of that subject. Your brain can't focus on it. So it ended up helping me. I do not recommend that, by the way. If you find this video on YouTube and you are having issues, bro, go talk to a therapist. Don't go smoking glass, okay? Anyways, I sharing this with you. Wanted to show you that this is how deep of a hole you can be in and get yourself out of using positive self-talk. If I can get myself from a point where I was telling myself that every day, 300 times a day, to getting to a point now where I would never even think of saying something like that about myself. Never ever. In fact, when I'm around people that I love and they even say, oh, I'm not good at this, or oh, I think I'm this, or oh, I'm fat, or this, I'm like, no, stop talking about yourself that way. Okay. I'm on such a better level now that I can control my inner voice, and I actively try to help the people around me with their own negative self-talk, two different levels, right? And I got myself to that point by doing this, man. Reading these books, going to therapy definitely helped a lot. But yeah, I just wanted to share that story with you to show you this is how serious your negative self-talk can get. And it doesn't matter how bad it is, it can be changed. And the first step is just getting into the habit of noticing it, getting really good at noticing when you're talking to yourself. And that's self-awareness. That's the first step of it, is just being aware of that inner dialogue. That's the most important step. If you can get really good at that, then you can get better. The second step is paying attention specifically to the negative thoughts, and then finding a good affirmation. Like I said, I used to use affirmations. When affirmations work best is when you prepare them and then say them to yourself when you catch a negative thought, right? So instead of saying to yourself, I'm a piece of shit and I deserve to die, you say to yourself, I love who I am and I am happy to be here. That was my positive affirmation that I said to myself in place of the other one. And boy, it made a big fucking difference, man. Just getting out of that habit and growing those habits of learning how to listen to myself, learning how to catch the negative thoughts, and then learning how to replace them with that much better thought. Man, dude, the outlook on my life, the trajectory changed. It skyrocketed. I went from being 30-some% body fat to, I was 185 pounds at 35% body fat 4 years ago. Big old pudgy skinny fat, weak as a fucking little tiny little fucking Twizzler stick arms and a big old fucking belly. Was on all kinds of drugs, man. Was doing, acid and dropping acid and shrooms every weekend, smoking weed every day, drinking on the weekends, tons of party drugs. I quit ice a long time ago. We're well over 12, 13 years since I've smoked ice. But, now, I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit drinking. I can have a beer now. Today I had a beer with pizza and whatever. I just have a beer. It's no big thing. It'll be another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I drink again. I don't need it. I smoked a cigarette a few nights ago. Whatever. Smoked a cigarette. No big deal. It'll be another 2, 3, 4 months before I smoke another cigarette. You know what I mean? Went from being addicted to so many things to having very few, if none, addictions at all. I had a sore throat for 2 weeks and had to quit drinking coffee. And I fucking love coffee. You can ask my girlfriend. I fucking love coffee, man. Coffee is amazing. It's the best invention since sliced bread. And, I don't need to drink coffee. If I can't, then okay, I can't drink coffee. Whatever, no big deal. But I went from, being broke as a motherfucker to just bought my first house. I went from being this skinny, 35% body fat, skinny fat at 185 pounds. I just quit my first really big bulk just a couple months ago, 235 pounds at 25% body fat. So lost 10% body fat, increased my weight by, what is that, 40 pounds? I'm not good at math. That's fine. 95, 205. I'm going to have to count all the figures. 50 pounds. And now I just started cutting about 14. It'll be 10 weeks ago next Monday that I started cutting, and I'm down from 235, 25% body fat. Now I'm at 195 at 18% body fat, right? So really changed my whole health, and got into doing MMA, something I would have never thought I'd ever have the balls to do. And that all started with the ability to pick out those negative thoughts and replace them with a better one. And then I also want to add it to this, practicing gratitude. So I'm not religious. If you are religious, that's awesome. I don't give a fuck what your religion is. That's super cool. If it benefits you, that's awesome, bro. I'm not very religious, but I'm not like a hardcore atheist. If you're an atheist, that's fine too, man. I'm not the kind of person to tell other people, what they ought to believe in when it comes to stuff like that. I get along with atheists. My family, my mom and dad are Christians. I've had friends who are Muslims. I have friends who are Jews, atheists. And as long as you're a cool dude, you're a cool dude. And as long as you're a cool girl, you're a cool girl. We can get along, man. We can be two couple fucking Fonzies, get along, But I don't care what you believe in. As long as you're a good person, that's awesome, dude. You keep on believing. And, but I'm not a very religious person. However, I did get into the habit. I got out of the habit. I need to get back into the habit. But I got into the habit for years. I would wake up in the morning and kind of do a prayer. The reality is prayer is a form of gratitude. And there is a psychological benefit to it, actually. They have done studies on it. And yes, there is a benefit to prayer. The benefit is it increases your optimism. It increases your happiness. It increases positive self-talk, actually. So I would get in the habit, in spite of the fact that I'm not religious, every day when I would get my coffee first thing in the morning, I would say out loud, I would list the things I'm thankful for. I am thankful for my girlfriend. I'm thankful for this amazing person I have in my life. I am thankful for my parents and how amazing they are. I'm thankful for my little brothers and all the support they've shown me. I'm thankful that all these people in my life are happy and having great things happen to them. I am thankful for my home. I am thankful for the ability to go work out. I am thankful that I'm so healthy and have the physicality to go work out. I am thankful for the money that I have. I am thankful for everything. Go down the list. It would be a whole 10-minute list of just me saying out loud the things that I am thankful for. And I'm not saying particularly thankful to anybody or anything, because I'm not very religious. I'm just putting it out there. These are the things that I want to be thankful for. If you're a religious person, Muslim, Jewish, whatever, almost every religion has some sort of practice of gratitude in the form of a prayer or something else. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That right there is a practice of gratitude, and it does improve your ability to self-talk. It's practice. It's positive self-talk. You are making a list of the reasons why your life is awesome. And being thankful, practicing thankfulness in the form of listing things you are thankful for is very, very powerful. And again, I'll say it again, when it's most important, when it's most powerful, is when life sucks. That's when it's most powerful. Being able to get up in the morning and make a list of the things I'm grateful for was most important and had the best effect when things sucked. When I got a call from my dad and he told me he has cancer. He has leukemia. And they didn't give him a long time to live. Those moments, positive self-talk helped. Those were the days where I don't feel like saying thankful today, dude. I don't feel like being thankful today, dude. I found out my dad could be dead in the next 2 years. I don't feel thankful for fucking anything. But taking the moment to say, okay, this and this, I'm still thankful for this. I'm thankful that my dad found it out before it got worse. I am thankful that I at least get 2 years with my dad. I am thankful that my dad is a smart man who has a lot of connections and has a good insurance and is in a position in his life where he can help himself. Going through that list of things I'm thankful for gives me a better perspective on the situation. And spoiler alert to those who are concerned, that was over 3 years ago, and my dad, his leukemia is untraceable now. So he did end up helping himself. Good things do happen. I'll also tell you another thing too. If my dad were here, he would tell you because this was a very important aspect. I remember this when he called me to tell me that he had leukemia. He didn't just have leukemia, he had leukemia, colon cancer, and spleen cancer. 3 different kinds of cancer all at once. And, when he told me that, he didn't cry, he didn't throw a fit, he didn't pout his hands and stomp the ground and say, this isn't fair, why me, all of that. He said, hey, this is a situation, but it's going to be okay because I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I give myself the best treatment possible. And, even if I only get a limited amount of time with you guys, I'm going to dedicate as much time as I can to being with you guys and making these last years we have together amazing. Sorry. And so he dedicated himself to that. And he not only improved his relationship with me and my 2 little brothers, he did go out and he gave himself a positive mindset, and that positive mindset propelled him to go out and figure out a whole slew of different kinds of treatments he could do, which included not just, the chemo and what the best kinds of chemo were, but getting into peptides, getting into various types of nutrition, changing his diet completely, exercising. He got into all of it. And you know what? His outcomes from his leukemia treatment have been amazing. I'm going to go see my dad this weekend, and he's going to come hang out with me and my girlfriend, and he's going to, we're going to have an awesome family Easter. And it's, he just got his blood test 2 weeks ago, and he's leukemia free for the most part. You don't ever get rid of leukemia, but it's as close as you can get to going in remission, right? So, and it isn't exclusively to positive mindset, but the positive mindset propelled him to be able to go do that. So there's a couple instances that I wanted to share with you in which positive self-talk, one, how negative self-talk can utterly destroy you as a person, and how positive self-talk can empower you. And so these steps, I'm going to bring it back up here on the screen. Go ahead and pause the screen and write these steps down because they are important. Gaining self-awareness is the first step. Learning how to spot those negative thoughts and then learn how to challenge them, stop them, replace them with a positive self-talk. And then, being able to figure out what that self-talk is, create a good affirmation for yourself. Sometimes it's good to work with a therapist on finding a healthy affirmation, one that you actually believe. And practicing gratitude, getting in the habit of that can be very helpful. So those are all important. And then, this is, I think, another how-to for how to change positive self-talk or change your inner dialogue. Okay. Your internal dialogue or self-talk is quite simply your thoughts. It is a little voice in your head that comments on your life. Well, I guess we don't need to go over this because we already know what it is. The importance of inner dialogue, what you think and the language you use can affect your mood, your self-confidence, and your self-esteem. Your internal dialogue can therefore be both helpful and unhelpful. For example, if you are inclined to be anxious, your internal dialogue can reinforce your anxiety. Some commentators suggest that anxiety can also upset your internal dialogue, creating a vicious cycle. If you have a low self-esteem, an internal dialogue of constant self-criticism can make things much worse. 3, the worst bully you are likely to encounter can be your own thoughts or self-talk. 4, just as smiling makes you feel happy, being exposed to negative language and unhappy thoughts can have an effect on your mood. This includes your internal dialogue if it tends towards beating yourself up. And being able to have a more positive internal dialogue can help you feel more positive, be more compassionate towards yourself, and improve your mood. So, here's the first step. Again, developing a discrepancy. Consider how you would treat a friend or a child if they'd done something that they regretted. How would you behave towards them? How would you speak to them? What words and tone would you use? Would you try to make them feel better about themselves? Fill out the left-hand column in the table below and then compare and contrast this with how you would treat yourself in the same situation. So this is a good way for finding those positive affirmations. Some people are so deep in a deep negative self-talk that they can't envision a positive thing to say about themselves. This is a worksheet that you can do to help with that. Managing your internal dialogue with NACR. Okay, this is a process that we kind of already went over. The first step is to notice that internal dialogue. Arrest. If you notice that you are being abusive towards yourself with self-talk, halt it in your tracks. Stop the negative self-talk. Then challenge the negative self-talk. And then I imagine replace the negative self-talk, right? So we already kind of went over that in the last slide. It was actually the same 4 steps. Okay. Here's a good worksheet to use. Again, you can create these worksheets for yourself. If you go to therapy, therapists will find these worksheets. Just type in negative, positive self-talk worksheets, and you're going to find these dozens of different variations on the internet to help you with this. But it is worth doing to write down what those negative. Now, remember, I told you that's what I did, right? There's a reason I shared with you that story, and it isn't boo-hoo, cry for me, my poor little life. Like, I shared that story with you so you can see, like, this is the process by which I got better. And this is the process you're going to do too if you effectively want to do this. Negative things you say to yourself, writing those things down, and then finding the positive replacement. That NACR, notice the negative things that you're saying to yourself. Again, that's the toughest aspect. That is the hardest thing to remember, is to remind yourself to notice your internal monologue. With practice, you might only get it 3 times a day, but with practice, you'll get better. You'll be able to notice your own self-talk. It'll almost become second nature just to notice the self-talk. But then you want to make it second nature to notice negative self-talk, stop the self-talk, and then replace that self-talk, that negative self-talk, with positive self-talk. And then really what you're doing is getting in the habit of just expressing positive self-talk. That's the habit you really want to get into at the end of the day, is get into the habit of positive self-talk and having a positive inner dialogue. Whenever I'm rolling or working out in the gym, I do this thing. This might be kind of funny, which is fine. You can go ahead and laugh at it. When I'm in the gym and I'm lifting weights, I look, it's anecdotal. I've tested it on myself and it works. It works for me. Okay. But when I'm in the gym and I'm struggling with weight, I'll notice that I will get a few extra reps in, or I'll be able to get one more rep in at a really heavy weight if I have a specific positive self-talk in my head. And that positive self-talk, it is a crowd of people chanting my name. It is a crowd of people shouting, Tony, Tony, Tony. I hear that, imagine that in my head while I'm lifting weights at the gym. I hear that in my head as I'm rolling. And that's really stupid. I totally get that. You're allowed to laugh at that. I laugh at myself. It's funny. But it works, dude. If I can hear that more than listening to my favorite kind of music, which they've proven scientifically, they've studied it. If you're listening to your favorite kind of music while lifting weights, you will get more reps in. More than anything I can think of, that right there, just hearing people chanting my name in my head gives me more repetitions for my workout. So that's a form of positive self-talk that I employ. Okay, so that's habit number 3. Now, we're 10 minutes. Oh, we're 20 minutes over the stream. Wow, I really got into it with you guys there. That's okay. This was worth going over my time limit today. And I didn't have a whole lot planned for tonight. So it's totally awesome that we're getting into this. I'm happy that we're diving into this deeply, because this is important stuff to know. If you employ these techniques in your life, it is going to make you a more successful person, a happier person, and more effective at chasing your goals. And that's the whole point. And I love talking about this. So I'm okay with going over on it tonight. Let's keep going. We're going to go with step 4 now. This is the final of the 4, habit. This is the last habit, and it's celebrating your victories. Pretty easy, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. We don't have to spend too much time on this. It is important to note that you should celebrate victories proportionately, and you should celebrate all your victories. And celebrating your victories means stop working and take time to relax and actually celebrate. Now, you need to celebrate every victory you get. Let the victories build up, okay? This is important for building a more positive self-dialogue, a more positive image of yourself, and building confidence in your ability to tackle your problems. Start a list. I have a list, by the way. I've had it for a very long time. I have a list of all the things that I've accomplished that were noteworthy in my life. And I am always constantly adding to that list. Anytime if I fix something on the house, right? Like, let's see. Oh, here's a good example. I know nothing about plumbing. And when I got into this house, I bought it one day. I walk out in the kitchen. And the whole kitchen floor is wet, soaked all through the ceiling tiles down below into the downstairs, and pooled on the downstairs, nasty brown liquid pooling on the floor. Just pooled down the wall. And I had to fix all that. I had to fix the ceiling. Thank God it didn't ruin the floor, and thank God it didn't get in down behind the wall. But I had to replace the ceiling where it got leaked through, and then I had to take apart the sink and all the pipes out of the sink, replace all the O-rings, and then put it all back together. And I had never done that before, so I had to figure it out, and I figured it out. Well, that sounds like a tiny thing, and it is a tiny thing. When you own a home, this is the kind of tiny shit that you're going to have to do regularly. Fixing your home is, a big part of it. Right now, I'm working at fixing my lawn. My lawn is just a fucking lawn full of weeds. I don't think I have any real grass in my lawn at all. It's all just weeds and weed grass. It'll be a 2 or 3 year process, but once I'm done, I'll have reseeded my grass and regrown it, and it will be nice, fucking perfect, amazing lawn that all of my neighbors are going to be jealous of. And you better believe that when that happens, that's going to go on my list of things I've accomplished. Everybody has their own process for celebrating their victories. It's important to find your own. I suggest going and reading articles like this. What the importance of celebrating your wins, right? Getting books like the books we just talked about at the beginning of the stream. NLP book, the Essential Guide to Neurolinguistic Programming. Dr. Eric Potterot's book. And another book that I'm going to show you guys here in a second when we're finished talking about this 4th step. Going out and reading books like this, and then going out and trying different methods of celebrating your victories in life. My method, I'll just give you guys a rough idea of what I do. I write it down. I got a goal list, goals that I have lined up to achieve. When I achieve one of those goals, it goes on my goal list. This is a list of things I've achieved in my life. Some of them are small, some of them are huge. But they're all important to me because they're small little victories. I break every goal that I have. Like right now, my goal, for instance, was starting this stream. My goal is to make the stream big enough that I can at least make some extra money off it. Doing 2 hours of streaming every night. That's my main goal. Well, I got to work my way there. But every victory that I get, right? I got my first, I have my cutie pie and her boyfriend, my cutie pie and her brother. I'm her boyfriend. Her brother, both, followed my channel, which was really sweet of them. But I got my first follow the other day from a completely random person I never met. That's a small victory. You better believe I celebrated that. I ate a pizza. I ate a fucking pizza. I stopped my diet and said, I'm going to eat 3 pieces of cheese fucking pizza tonight because I got my first real follow. How fucking badass is that? That's a victory. It's a small victory. It's a small little step on that step of actually being able to make money off of my streams, but it's an important step and it's an important victory. Adamant, I don't know. I don't think that was the person's name. Adamant. If they are listening right now, thanks again for that follow. But yeah, that was an important first step for me, and I celebrated that. It's important to celebrate the little wins because the little wins are going to become big wins. That's the most important aspect of celebrating your victories that I can get through to you. It's good to break down your goal, have a big goal in your life that you want to achieve, break that goal down into steps. And every time you accomplish a step, write it down, make a note of it, and then celebrate. Pick something small. It's a small step, so pick something small. You don't got to go out and, go snort a fucking ounce of cocaine and go party it up, But, eating a pizza, right? I'm on a diet right now, so for me, eating a pizza and getting, having a root beer, oh, man. That's awesome, dude. Like, that's a celebration right there to me, because I'm dieting right now. I'm cutting. So I'm allowed to break my cut for a day to eat some fucking pizza to celebrate my success on my stream, even though it was a small success. Okay. And it's also very important to actually celebrate the success, which means I took it, on that day that I got my stream or I got that follow on my stream. I didn't do any extra work on my stream that day. I didn't work on any other goal that day. I took the rest of that night to relax, kick my feet up. I watched Tombstone because Val Kilmer just passed away, and was an amazing actor. Tombstone was one of my favorite Val Kilmer movies. I'm not a huge Western fan, but I do like that Western. I watched Tombstone, ate some pizza, drank a soda, and took the rest of the night to just relax. No working on anything else. I'll do everything. I'll get back on my schedule tomorrow and do all my work tomorrow. But for the rest of the night, I'm just relaxing and feeling good about myself. Okay? And remind yourself you accomplished this. Again, positive self-talk. Integrate that into your victory. When you succeed at something, no matter how small, remind yourself, I did this. I succeeded at this. I set this out for me to do, and I did it. Add it to a list of things you succeeded and watch those successes grow, and so you can visualize that in real time. And then make sure you celebrate. No extra work. Take the time to yourself to relax, do something you want to do, celebrate. And there was something else I wanted to say there. I forgot what my other tip was going to be. Oh, yeah. And, well, I guess I already said it. Positive self-talk. Remind yourself that you did this and feel good about it. Oh, that was what I wanted to say. Do not compare your success to other people's successes, okay? Because if I go out and compare myself to one of the bigger streamers that's streaming right now, I don't have my stream up, but if I go to compare it to one of the bigger streamers that's up right now, I might compare it to Asmongold or Hassan or any of the other people that are out there streaming. I'm forgetting all the other names. At any point in time, they got 35,000 people watching them. I just got my first follow. If I compare myself to them, it's not going to seem like a success. I'm going to feel down on I'm going to be like, but I'm not accomplishing anything. No, dude. I accomplished something. I get my cheese pizza. Fuck you. I'm taking that cheese pizza, son. I deserve it. I take it seriously and do not compare your success to other people's successes. Okay. Ooh. Oh, Sean, hey, what's going on? Young Odyssey. Oh, right on, dude. I appreciate you coming in and checking me out live, man. This guy's a friend of mine. Anybody else that's watching, a really close friend of mine. Thanks for coming in and joining the channel, man. Yeah, thanks for the congratulations, too. Yeah, I got my first follow, and I've had a couple people come in and actually chat with me, too, which was a blast. That was actually what was, the whole aspect of starting the live stream, was have people come in and actually chat and say hi and talk about the subject matter. I'm glad that this is the first stream you came on, though, man, because I know you and me have had conversations about this multiple times. The 4 Habits of Navy SEALs, that's where I'm onto right now. I don't know how much of the stream you watched, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm covering that last habit of Navy SEALs, right? So anyways, man, it's awesome to have you. Thanks. You just got here. Cool. Well, thanks for coming in and checking it out, dude. I appreciate that. That's exciting to have you, man. But yeah, we're covering the last habit of Navy SEALs. I don't know if I'm positive I've told you about this. I'm positive we've talked about the 4 habits of Navy SEAls. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming in and checking it out, man. I appreciate it. Even if you only stay for a few minutes, just to kind of give me an idea of, like how you think I can improve with the lighting and the sound and all of that, like I think I texted you my sound. I know that it's a little bit echoey in my room. And I get a little crackle here and there, but I'm working on that. I'll get it figured out after Easter at some time. But still, though, yeah, I hope you enjoy the stream and the setup and everything. Thanks for checking it out on YouTube too. Oh, I just checked your video out on YouTube too. The Hunter S. Thompson video, or the one I said it was like Hunter S. Thompson. Yeah, you got to let me know who wrote that monologue of yours on that, because that was really dope. That was pretty sick. I don't know if you've posted anything anytime soon, but yeah, that monologue was really fucking sick. I was like, dude, whoever wrote that is definitely a fan of Hunter S. Thompson for sure. Because that was definitely some Hunter S. Thompson sounding shit right there. But yeah, and also because this video is going to go on YouTube, make sure you post the name to your YouTube channel in the chat. And so when people find me, You and Chat GPT. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Fucking A, man. Well, that's good, dude. I loved it. That was sick. That was really enjoyable. Very entertaining. Very Hunter S. Thompson style, which I love Hunter S. Thompson, man. I love his writing. So make sure you post the name to your YouTube channel in the chat too, because this is going to go up on YouTube and the VOD stays on Twitch for a while. And I do end up getting 20 or 30 views on the Twitch VODs before it gets taken off the website. So there's a chance I can shout out your Wonder Mush. That's it. I'll just say it for you, Wonder Mush. That's the name of your YouTube channel. But yeah, I really liked that video though. It was very entertaining. So good job on that, man. I appreciate you coming and checking me out and giving me some pointers too, man. Okay, yeah, anyways, let me inform you then. I don't know if you and me, Sean, have ever talked about the 4 habits of Navy SEALs. I'm positive that we have, but I just not remembering it right now. But either way, if we haven't, then we have. Okay, cool. Nice. Then yeah, so you know all about it. We're just diving into the last step here, which is the importance of celebrating your wins and your victories, right? So I was kind of going over the important things to do when you're celebrating a victory. It's important to make sure you actually take time to celebrate the victory. Take time, block time out of your day to relax, reward yourself, remind yourself, visualize what you went through to get there. And pat yourself on the back and remind yourself you're the one that accomplished this. Make sure you write it down. I like to keep a running list. That's not necessary, but it is optional, but it is beneficial to keep a list of all of your accomplishments. And then last but not least, don't ever compare your accomplishments to other people. Don't compare like I was saying, I was excited about my first follow. If I would have compared it to, Asmongold, who's got 60,000 people watching him right now, it wouldn't feel like a victory. It'd feel like bullshit. So you just can't do that. There's a saying, what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. And when it comes to celebrating your wins, that's incredibly important, dude. Don't ever compare yourself to other people's success. Just focus on what you accomplished and celebrate that accomplishment for what it is. It can be very helpful to celebrate those wins with good people, too. If you have friends, you have family, you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, mom, dad, people that are excited for you, that would be excited for you, make sure you include them in your victories somehow, even if it's just calling them up and just letting them know, hey, I finally got my YouTube channel running, I finally got my Twitch channel running, make sure you just include them and let them know. And that having people in your life, because that, having these people in your life, if somebody loves you, they're going to be excited for you. They're going to be happy you accomplished this. My cutie pie just got a call back she had an amazing interview with a badass company that she's really excited to work with up here in Nashville. And I'm excited for her. And because I care about her, when she shows up and says, wow, I had a good interview, I'm like, well, fuck, we got to fucking celebrate. We got to do something. We got to make this a big deal. Congratulations. I knew you'd do amazing. You're so badass. Having somebody, you want to include the people you love. Because when you accomplish something in your life, you do deserve to hear those words. Hearing those words is going to make the celebration that much more important, and it's going to increase your confidence that much more, which is the reason why you need to celebrate your successes. That's the reason why the Navy SEALs do it, okay? The reason Dr. Eric Potterrott taught the Navy SEALs to celebrate their successes is because every success you celebrate, not every success you do, but every success you accomplish and then celebrate becomes a huge boost to your confidence, right? It's going to improve your self-image, which improves your positive self-talk. That's habit number 3. It's going to improve your confidence in yourself to go out and make bigger goals for yourself, right? So it has a sort of a vicious cycle, but reversed. It's a compounding effect, right? It's going to compound the positive aspects of every other habit that you are engaging in. And it's going to make your life that much better. It's going to make your goals that much easier to accomplish and improve your quality of life. And that's how celebrating your victories does so. If you're not celebrating your victories, you're leaving, believe it or not, a lot on the table, man. You're leaving a lot of the confidence you would otherwise gain and the self-image that you would otherwise build in yourself. on the table, even when you do accomplish something good. Even when you're happy about the thing you accomplished. If you're not making a point to celebrate that victory, you're not rewarding yourself, you're leaving a lot on the table, right? So let's go over this article real quick. I definitely gave you guys a good deep dive right there into the importance of celebrating your victories, how to appropriately celebrate your victories. But let's go ahead and see what they say at Psychology Today. And then I'll give you a little bit, a couple more book references, and then we'll call it good for the night. All right. But let's go ahead and read this article here. From small steps to big wins, the importance of celebrating. See, remember I said, baby wins are important too. Don't just keep the celebrations for the big stuff. Tiny stuff is important too, right? We'll go past the key points. I work with many high-achieving adults who set big goals and reach them. But as soon as they do, they're ready to move the goalpost and get back to work on the next thing. They don't want to pause long enough to celebrate or even acknowledge all of the effort and energy that brought them to this moment. Take my client Jada, an owner and CEO of an investment company who recently met her annual goal to expand internationally 6 months early. As soon as she mentioned this win, she was ready to move on and create a new goal to acquire a foreign competitor. When I stopped her to ask how she was going to celebrate the original milestone of expanding internationally, her face looked as though I had asked her how she was going to travel to the moon later that day. Not only had it not occurred to her to celebrate, but she also had no idea what celebrating wins even looked like. Yeah, this is something that I do. Sometimes when you start getting these successes, that momentum picks up and you're on a roll and you don't want to quit for nothing. You're like, no, fuck that. I need to keep working. I need to keep this momentum going, son. Rein it back just a tiny bit. Rein it back because it's worth it. It's worth it. Again, it's that extra confidence that it's going to give you from that celebration is worth you taking a pause to celebrate. So here's into why our needs need to celebrate. Hopefully this can get a little more scientific like we did with our other habits, right? So celebrating wins is essential for maintaining motivation and improving overall life satisfaction. Research shows that recognizing small successes activates the brain's reward system, which releases dopamine and reinforces positive behavior. So that's the big one. I guess I probably could have told you that, but it is good for you to hear it from the horse's mouth, right? Psychology Today is a little bit more of a trustworthy news source than the guy in a pickle shirt, right? So it is what it is. This process fosters a sense of accomplishment and progress and boosts self-efficacy and self-esteem. Thus, when people celebrate their achievements, they are more likely to remain motivated and pursue further goals, creating a positive feedback loop of success and satisfaction. See, I told you that part. I was right on that part. I just forgot what the fuck they call it. But positive feedback loop, right? Okay, that's what I'm talking about here. That's what I'm saying. I know what I'm talking about, even when I don't know how to say it. In contrast, if we skip over the successes and move on to the next goal, our milestone without acknowledgement, we're more likely to experience chronic stress. In the book, The Burnout Challenge, researchers Christina and Michael, I don't know how to say Christina's last name, Michael, his last name's Leader, but anyway, Christina and Michael identify insufficient rewards as one of the 6 reasons people burn out at work. That's interesting. I actually wouldn't have thought that. I did not know that. Insufficient rewards can cause us to burn out in other areas of life as well, not just work. If we don't celebrate successes at the gym, like increasing the amount of weight we can lift or how far we can run, we're less likely to want to continue. And if we continue going to the gym without ever acknowledging our gains, we'll become cynical, exhausted, and down on ourselves. That's very important. So I did not know that. A little bit of information. We're all learning something today. Celebrate the small wins. Like I said, that's important. Celebrations shouldn't be saved for the huge achievements either. While those are important, so are small steps that we make along the way. In my work with Jada, we broke down her annual goals into quarterly, monthly, and weekly goals to help her stay on track. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Find a goal you want to pick and then break it down into baby steps. And breaking it down on that timeline, I hadn't mentioned that. That's very important too. Breaking down, okay, what am I going to accomplish towards my streaming goal? What do I want to accomplish by the end of the year? What do I want to accomplish within 6 months? And me personally, what works best for me, everybody's different. How you celebrate your wins is going to be specific to you. So figure out, your own way of celebration. I gave you an example of what I do, but you'll figure out what's best for you. Same with how you accomplish your goals, how you map those out. But for me, it's monthly goals. Monthly small goals is the best way for me to build up a length of time where I've achieved a lot towards one specific goal, right? Before I get to the point where I say I want to be a certain weight or build a certain get build a certain amount of muscle. Before I get to that point, I have monthly goals that I have to achieve to that point. And when I achieve those monthly goals, as I achieve those monthly goals, I have a whole, once I've done so, I have a whole list of celebrations that I've had and goals I've achieved to that point, which is important because like my body goals have been a long time in the making, and I'm going on like year 4 of regular daily gym, going to the gym every day to get to the point that I want to get to, and I'm still not there. So the only thing that's kept me going for 4 years is the monthly goal list that I have. And every time I get to scratch that goal off at the end of the month, I definitely celebrate it. I eat that fucking pizza, dude. I eat the shit out of that pizza. So that's important. Small wins are very important. And breaking it down in those time frames is a really good piece of advice too. Check that out, see if it works for you, you know. But I also want, let's see, they broke her goals down, Jada, to keep her on track, but I also wanted us to have markers along the way that we'd be able to celebrate. Once she learned the importance of celebrating and came up with a list of victory items to choose from each time, she became eager to make it to the next milestone to earn her reward. That's true. You know, if you're giving yourself, like, for instance, eating that pizza in the middle of a diet, right? If I know I give myself the ability to do that, I'm more motivated to accomplish those milestones, right? Ooh, that was a rough one, man. Ooh, give me a second. Heartburn. Speaking of diets, I haven't eaten in like 3 or 4 hours. And I'm definitely feeling it. And last time I ate, I had saltine crackers. Not kidding you. I'm living like an abused child over here. Neglected child. Okay. Celebrate the big wins. We also want to celebrate the big wins. Jada decided to have smaller rewards for the weekly and monthly milestones and bigger ones for the quarterly and annual. Big wins take a lot of time and effort, thus the rewards should reflect that. Like I'd said that earlier, celebrate your wins proportionally, you know? It'll take time to figure out what that looks like, but that's entirely up to you. We're not looking to light up the reward center and ignite a dopamine release here, but rather give ourselves some closure for our accomplishment. This gives us time to savor all the hard work it took to get to this point, as well as to appreciate what we truly achieved. When Jada met her annual goal 6 months early, she decided this was worthy of a weekend away with good friends. All right, so celebrating big wins also leads to more social and emotional support. This is getting your friends and family involved. We often tell others about these achievements, resulting in closer relationships, positive feedback, and enhanced feelings of belonging and connection. So there's some other reasons why it's so important to go back to your support system and let them know when you have accomplished something. So we'll get into that, Jada and her girlfriends. So how will you celebrate? Here's a couple ideas on how to celebrate. You want to celebrate everything you're achieving, no matter how small it may seem. Here's how you can get started today. Get clear on your goals, okay? We already kind of talked about that. You can celebrate what you can't celebrate what you don't know you have achieved. So make sure you have annual goals that you can break down into quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily goals. Step 2, decide ahead of time what your small rewards will be. Have a list of small rewards for the monthly and weekly that you can choose from as needed. Examples of small rewards include a massage, a new plant for your office, a new piece of clothing, taking a half or a full day off, manicure, or buying a specialty coffee drink, or in my case, a big-ass pizza. Decide what your big rewards will be. You know, instead of having a list to choose from, you should attach a specific reward to a specific win. You'll know what you are working towards, plus you'll know why you earned it. Examples of big rewards include a luxury vacation, a weekend getaway, a spa retreat, a home renovation project, a special meal out of a favorite restaurant, or hosting a big celebration with friends and family. And lastly, find an accountability partner. It's going to be tempting to skip the rewards. Trust me, I see clients do this all the time. You wouldn't think so, but it is. Again, that motivation, it gets going and you don't want to ever let up, you know. But if you let someone know what you're working towards and how you're rewarding yourself, you'll be much more likely to follow through. So there are some good tips on following through with that last step or that last habit. That last habit is the easier one to understand, you know, the easier one to implement. Again, you know, in this one, you don't so much necessarily need the celebration aspect of it to really be a habit. As long as you're keeping yourself accountable, you're keeping those lists and doing the goal list. Really, it's the goal list that you want to build into a habit. You know, thankfully, I'm a huge fucking fan of lists. I fucking love lists. I don't know what it is, man, but I can sit and just make lists of useless shit all day long and be perfectly satisfied with my life. So it's easy for me to keep a goal list running and always have a new one every month ready to go at the beginning of the month. Some people have a more difficult time with that. Those of you that do, that's the part that you're really going to want to build into a habit, is making sure you're constantly making that goal list, crossing those goals off. And then, you know, yes, give yourself the time to celebrate that goal. Give yourself the little reward for that goal, however big or small it is. But, you know, it's not as habit forming as, say, the other three habits. The other three habits are legit habits. The box breathing is something you're definitely going to want to turn into a habit. Positive self-talk, especially a really big one. We went over how important that is and how detrimental it can be to your mental health. And three, I'm blanking on number three. Number three was, visualization. That's a tough one. That one is the toughest one to bring to turn into a habit, but is equally important. The celebrating victories is less habit forming because you're not really doing it every single day. The other three you can do and should do every day. Number four is a little bit less habit forming. Really, you just want to get into, I guess, the habit. The part of it that is habit forming is creating those lists and just making sure you're rewarding yourself, right? Especially if you're in that moment where you're feeling a little bit burnt out on something you're doing. So I did want to go over this real quick before I let you guys go, because we're almost to 3 hours for the stream now. Longest stream I've done so far on this channel. So, you know, I'll count that as a win. Maybe that'll be my excuse for having a slice of pizza tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, I wanted to note that, yeah, why is that? Why did you need to hear this today? You're getting on some new goals today? Is that what you're doing? Make sure you check out the beginning of the stream too. Well, that'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to check that on YouTube if you're interested in hearing this kind of stuff, Sean. I know you're interested in Mental Health Monday, so you were one of the, I guess everybody that I polled on this was excited about Mental Health Mondays, but I remember specifically talking to you, and you were the most excited about it because you and me have that in common. We've always had a connection in our friendship because we both take personal growth very fucking seriously. So I definitely could see Mental Health Mondays being something that you would enjoy. And I'm glad that you're enjoying it too. Thank you for joining in. And I'm very glad that it's helpful too, man. Hopefully this finds more people on YouTube too, and they get a lot out of it too, man. That would be awesome. I personally was super excited to talk about it today. That's why I took 3 fucking hours to talk about it. Usually I only take 2 hours, but I'm going on 3 now because it's a lot of fun to talk about, you know. But so remember I said earlier in the stream, right, that I don't think they even directly tell Navy SEALs that they're teaching them these habits. I think that because of this guy right here, David Goggins. David Goggins is, if you don't know who he is, check him out. Dude's like the fucking pinnacle of mental toughness, literally run on broken legs and broken knees. His book, this book right here, this is his new book, Never Finished, but this book right here, Can't Hurt Me, is like my Bible. Man, I love this book. I listen to it at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. I just finished it again last month. It's such an important book to me. It absolutely changed my life just as much as these 4 habits did. I think we will be doing at least a 2-hour stream just on this book alone, like a book review on this specific book on one Mental Health Monday, because it is an awesome book, man. Sean read this book, got a lot out of it too. You know, everybody, you know, both my little brothers read this book. Anybody I know that's read this book, man, has gotten a lot out of it, man. It's a wonderful book. But you'll notice through this book, if you know these 4 habits of Navy SEALs and have then read this book, you'll notice through this book, David Goggins has specific exercises that he has you, the reader, do if you want when you're following along with the book. These exercises are exercises to help you implement the 4 habits of Navy SEALs that we just discussed. And that's the box breathing, positive and strategic visualization, positive self-talk, and celebrating your victories. And there's multiple times in this book where he actually goes over employing those techniques in his life. Yet nowhere in the book does he actually go over the Navy SEALs teaching him this. And I have read another book by a Navy SEAL that went over BUD/S training and also never brought that up. And I'm inclined to believe that they don't actually even tell the Navy SEALs that they're learning this. They just drill it into their heads from day one. They just learn this is how you need to think. While we're kicking your ass, screaming in your face, trying to make you quit, we are going to force you to employ positive self-talk, visualize succeeding, celebrate victories, and learn how to control your breathing. And they do that through very unique methods. Like they do essentially is kind of like controlled drowning in the Navy SEAL, and that in the Navy SEALs and BUD/S, which is, going to teach them how to control their breathing. It's more of the throw you in the fire way of learning how to control your breathing. I don't recommend that. You should just take 10 minutes a day to learn how to box breathe. There's much more appropriate way for you to go about it at home. But they have neat specific ways of teaching the trainees these 4 habits without them actually knowing these 4 habits. That's my hypothesis. Fuckballs. I need to realize there's a microphone here. I haven't gotten the habit of that. That's just my hypothesis. If a Navy SEAL does see this on YouTube, then drop in the comments and let me know. But just wanted to bring up this last book and also bring up this fellow right here, David Goggins, Mr. Mental Toughness right here. This dude's a bad motherfucker. He does 130-mile foot races and all kinds of ridiculous shit. Got through BUD/S, did BUD/S training 3 times, got through it the last time on broken legs. You want a good book on mental toughness and to see the effects of how mental toughness can improve your life. I already gave you some examples in my life, how it improves, how I utilize box breathing. I had some other stories to get into, but I'll probably call it a day and I won't go too much into those other stories. But how box breathing helped. I gave you some pretty personal notes on how positive self-talk helped me in my life, helped my dad in his life when he was diagnosed with cancer. Positive self-talk made a big difference. And he would tell you that if he was here. He'd tell you it made a massive difference on how good he's doing nowadays. Positive visualization and the celebrating small victories. I've given you some small examples here and there on how it's affected my life. And some examples on how it can, some hypotheticals on how it can help you in your life. If you want a full novel on how the real world effects that these habits have had on this man's life, this is a wonderful book. I definitely recommend it, man. It is one of the most important books I've ever read on my self-help journey. And funny enough, you will learn those 4 techniques for mental health. They are in that book. You will definitely get even more insight into them. That and the 2 books that we went over at the beginning of the stream. I already closed my thing, but the NLP, the Essential Guide to Neurolinguistics Programming, we'll probably do another stream on neurolinguistics programming just in and of itself, because there's a lot of techniques I learned from NLP that I employ nowadays. Anchoring, we went over how that one was kind of a big deal to me. And then that Dr. Eric Potterot, his book, the guy who developed these 4 habits, we went over his career and then went over the book that he read at the beginning of stream. If you just rewind the VOD, you'll see that book of his. It was something excellence, like higher excellence or something to that effect. I'm blanking on the name right now, but that book too, 3 books right there that I know for a fact that'll give you more insight to how to employ these 4 habits. I highly suggest going out and getting one of them. And, and then doing a little research on your own. I gave you some good web pages throughout the video. Go ahead and pause the video whenever you need to make some lists for yourself. Start doing a little research on your own time and start employing it every day and doing tiny little baby steps. And I guarantee you, this is going to improve your mental health. Like I said, yes, these are mental toughness exercises. These are things that you do to improve mental toughness. But as we've learned throughout the stream, these things don't just improve mental toughness. Really, what it improves is your ability to maintain your emotional levels in stressful environments. But all of these things improve your happiness, your calmness, your peace of mind, and your ability to relax in all stages of the day, throughout the entire day, in all stages of life, but especially in stressful moments in your life. And that's very important. That's invaluable information. Anybody who's achieved any major goal in their life, you're going to employ you're going to need to employ these habits, or at least employing these habits will help you tenfold. And that comes from multiple experts that we've gone through throughout the course of this stream. So I hope you take it for what it is. I hope this video reaches a lot of people, and I hope you all take it very seriously. Start employing these habits in your daily life because you deserve it's worth it. It's worth having that better quality of life. You deserve that better quality of life. And it was fun for me to talk about. In either case, I had a blast talking about it with you guys. So that'll probably do it for me tonight. To everybody that came in, enjoyed the live stream. Sean, Young Odyssey, thank you so much for coming in and checking out the live stream for the first time. And thank you for the follow as well. I thought I saw another one. Geo the Champ. Geo the Champ, thank you for hopping in and giving me your follow, man. I really appreciate that too. You didn't hop in the comment section. Some people don't like to comment. That's okay. So no worries, man. But maybe next time, if you're up for commenting, if you're still here, throw down in the chat room, because I love talking to people in the chat room. That's kind of what the whole point of wanting to do a live stream was I can have people to talk with, like Sean here, sitting and chatting about what's going on and like what you think of this and that and the other thing, It's good to have people in the chat to sit and talk with you. Or Cutie Pie, always coming in here. Thank you, Cutie Pie, for watching. I'm sure you're still there too, so I appreciate you watching too. I'm about to go up there and eat some pizza. Unless Bundy's ate all of it, then I might just order a pizza. Either way, I'm starving. But yeah, so I'm going to go get some food, you guys. To everybody who watched it live, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come watch me. Thanks again, Sean. I always appreciate your support. You and Cutie Pie are my main support system, so thank you so much to both of you for being here. To everybody who watches this on YouTube, thank you so much for checking out the video, and I hope you learned something. Please leave a like and subscribe if you found this video useful, and come check out my Twitch channel. I stream live every night at 7 p.m. Every day is a different day. Today was Monday. It was a Mental Health Monday. If you're interested, tomorrow is Terrifying Tuesdays. And I will be going over Gilles de Reyes, or Gilles de Reyes. I don't know how to say his name. We will learn about that tomorrow. But he was the first serial killer that we know of in the world. He was a pretty gruesome one. So we're going to go over that macabre bit of history tomorrow. Again, 7 p.m. So if you like scary, spooky, weird, macabre shit, that's what we'll be doing every Tuesday over at Cool Beans Hot Stuff at Twitch. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Peace.